All right, everybody. Welcome to Get the Memo. We have been gone for 3 whole months. I went on a no t-shirt 3-month vacation. No, that's not what happened. YouTube decided to censor my channel. So the employees that work for this channel were not being paid during those 3 months. And the reason is I mentioned a certain pandemic. And it was Trump defending a certain thing that goes in your arm. So I wasn't able to post. Now I was gonna post a video, kind of welcoming everybody back. However, I thought I was talking to my good friend that's on the stream, who said, we should do a live stream. So to welcome the channel back with a bang, we are doing a fucking live stream. I am ecstatic, baby. So we're gonna be talking Ukraine. We're gonna be talking Ukraine. We're gonna be talking about Amazon and the union that just won, and AOC abandoning the working class. We're gonna talk about the Democratic problem with the Democratic Party and Democratic money. We're gonna be talking about Shia 9 Plus. Yeehaw! We're gonna be talking about a lot of good things here tonight on the channel. So, welcome everybody to Get the Memo. This is the very first live stream we do on this channel. Now, if you follow my other channel, J Sports, which you can check out in the description, you would know that I do live streams there, basically probably about every week. It's been a couple weeks, but usually a live stream every single week on that channel. We're gonna do as many as we can here. I'm more excited to do things here because I'm a politics geek. And so let me introduce our two guests. One is shaped like a ponytail. The other one is shaped like a kebab. Anyway, our first guest, you know him, you love him. He's been on the channel 1,000 times. We've discussed foreign policy. We've discussed Afghanistan and Pakistan and Biden and Trump and everything else, DACA. We've done everything. He has not been on the channel in 2022. He only came a few times in 2021 because he just let me down. I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Naeem Abu Hawa. What up, Naeem?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Jason? What's going on, audience? It's been quite a while since last I showed up. What was it, back in September or something?
September.
August or some shit. Yeah. But it's quite a pleasure being back, and I really look forward to the great discourse we're going to share.
That's right. And Naeem is our foreign policy expert, our foreign policy person. And we got a new guest on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies.
Hi.
He's too sexy for his shirt, too sexy for his pants, too sexy for his pants. Ladies and gentlemen, he is very familiar to the J Sports audience. That's right. I named the channel after me, biatches. That's right. I'm cocky. He has been on the sports channel a billion times, a trillion times, a trillion times, however you want to count it. He's never been on this channel, but he loves history. He's a great conversationalist. And I thought, why not have these two individuals join me tonight? Now, we do not have Oscar Montiel. Now, that is his name, Oscar Montiel. So, we don't have Oscar Montiel tonight, but I hope that he's watching. Oscar, if you are, you're still a terrible Washington fan. I don't know why you like Washington. We got our new guest. He is the host of Faxman's Musings, and he is also the co-host of Oscar Montiel, great friend of the show, Oscar Josue Montiel's Golden Truth series on every Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever the hell they do it. Usually Tuesdays at 6:30 Eastern. Do the math, 3:30 Pacific. And that is on Real Talk with Oscar Josue Montiel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Faxman.
The Faxman cometh, baby. And let me tell you, if you ain't hyped, you better get hyped, because we're going to do some politicizing and turn up to 11.
Let's get real. It sounds like it's going to be fun over here.
It sounds like you need to pull down your pants. All right.
I know, right? I'm already ready. Whip something out.
All these tales.
All right. It is
Oh,
good
man.
to have you both here. It is Friday night on our show tonight. Be sure to comment. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. We need all the subscribers we can get. The YouTube algorithm has forgotten about my channel because it's been gone for 3 months thanks to YouTube censored. So let's get to that.
Subscribe.
I have an interesting story about that too.
All right,
I'll let you go first.
We'll get to it too. So I covered a video well, I can't really share it, but it was Trump defending a thing that goes here, right here on your arm. If you can see my arm, and basically it's a thing that goes on your arm. I can't really say what it
So
is.
the big bad orange man was promoting the big bad orange juice.
So it's birth control. Just kidding.
Drink your orange juice, take your vitamin C, and
then get your
be
contraception
healthy.
through your arm.
Yeah. Get your sex protector through your arm. So
Your
when you have sex, you don't. So anyway, I was talking about that and how Trump was defending it against Candace Owens, and apparently that video was too much for YouTube to handle because YouTube are little bitches. So they censored my channel for 3 whole months. That's why you haven't seen me post about Ukraine and all of that. So, this whole censorship, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to set out a warning to everybody. Censorship is real in our country, especially. Unless you are the elite who get to lie on a daily basis, censorship is taking over. And this is exactly why people are leaving YouTube and going to sites like Rumble and going to sites like Rockfin, because they don't censor right now. We are experiencing a authoritarian problem in our country where we are unconstitutionally being told what to do with our bodies. We are unconstitutionally, they are infringing on our freedom of speech. They are infringing on our right to protest and the freedom of the press as well. Also religion, all of that. But we cannot post what we think is wrong. We cannot post any studies that are based on science. We cannot talk about wars without getting demonetized. And that's exactly what happened to our show. That's exactly what's happened to Chris Hedges. That's exactly what's happened to Abby Martin. This is censorship, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be careful with what we say on YouTube. That's how things are.
And we should have known that was the case when Tara Reid was censored when she was making a legitimate statement of accusation against Joe Biden back in 2020.
Yep.
That's
right. And that's why. Go ahead.
Well, there's also the thing of censorship as far as you have to be careful of who sees your content as well, because I don't know if you guys know this, but YouTube offers a service where you would have to pay a certain amount per month to be able to geo-block your content. There have been some anime YouTubers in the past who have been held liable by they've been held liable by law based on laws that come from other countries, because people in other countries can see their content.
Yeah, and I mean, but we're talking about the big tech censorship here, and you're right. And other countries,
it's a part of it.
It's a part of it, and that's scary because, I'm talking Saudi Arabia, and we're talking about war, and we're talking about the arms industry and all of that. What if someone from Saudi Arabia sees it? Mohammed bin Salman decides he wants to cut my head off, like he did to Jamal Khashoggi.
You would not be protected unless you had geo-blocked your content, because when stuff like that happens, 9 times out of 10 you're supposed to get warnings and sanctions from YouTube or from the government that tell you what you did wrong. But the fact of the matter is that there are some countries that are somehow fully within their rights to basically be able to target you directly and say either shut down your channel or face imprisonment or worse.
Well, there's a YouTuber in Saudi Arabia who's serving prison time because of their YouTube content. There is also many people in Russia who are, if not serving prison time, definitely under threat given the content they put out there. And you see the same
what
in
about
China.
here in the
But
U.S.?
that's in the U.S. There's a different issue of censorship. All censorship is bad censorship, in my opinion.
Yes.
But in the U.S., the censorship comes from this. It's more 3D chess. Does that make any sense? It's more like layered. Like in Russia, you go post something, you have the authorities showing up at your door, right?
Whether you pay money or
in the U.S., that happened. There was a gentleman who posted something on Twitter. He was upset with AOC for whatever reason, and then the Capitol Police were showing up at his door in California.
The LAPD were sent by the Capitol Police to go and check on this guy, and they asked him about his politics. So now, and the squad, the hashtag fraud squad, approved funding for the Capitol Police, $1.9 billion. Excuse me.
Nice.
And they're asking for more funding right now, by the way, the Capitol Police.
They are. The Capitol Police, who allowed that attack on purpose. And they're getting more funding. And they're not just doing it to fund there. They're putting Capitol Police offices throughout the entire country. This is what's... Russia does that. North Korea does that. China does that. And the United States, China's bad, Russia's bad, this is bad. And they're the ones doing it. The big thing is, we're having a bunch of liberal technocrats, liberal dipshits, blue check liberals who are saying, we do not want, we don't want people to be heard. We only want the elitists to be heard. Whether you're right wing or you're left wing. I don't agree with the right wing. I don't agree with the fact that they say that they hate the Jews and they hate and that the Holocaust didn't happen. That's stupid. It's bullshit. We know that. We should be allowed to be able to play their content, like Alex Jones's content, who's very entertaining, and be able to say, well, here's how Alex Jones is wrong. Here's
respond to disinformation with more information.
We are living in a time and in a state of mind where history itself is trying to is like the liberal elite is trying to censor history, trying to censor the past. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how much you try to run away from it, you're never going to be rid of it.
Well, they're trying to censor the present.
Well, and it goes back to like, let's remove all these statues. It goes back to, let's take the words "In God We Trust" off the dollar bill. It goes back. I mean, things like this. Like there's been a trail, or there's been footsteps for this kind of thing for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if you look at how Facebook and Twitter are, you can't talk violence, you can't be violent, but it's okay to be violent against people of Russia.
It's gotten so bad that there's literally had to be a totally different social network created called Parler that is specifically for conservative people.
Well, and you see, I think you just highlighted a really good point, Jason, and hopefully you get more into this or you post separate segments about this. But the Facebook people, whoever run the algorithms over there, have made it so that in nations like Ukraine and Poland and a couple of those border nations in that area,
and here
you can post death to Russia, death to Vladimir Putin. There's a few phrases that they are going to permit that incites hate and violence against Russia and against Russians. That will be okay because they all obviously picked their side and decided who they're going to side with. In this case, Ukraine.
They're siding with the U.S. They're siding with the military-industrial complex. They're siding with the Pentagon. They're siding with the White House. They're siding with the CIA and the FBI, who all do the dirty wars in Syria and Libya and in Egypt.
And supposedly Facebook is the bastion of liberalism.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not. They're all in bed with the Pentagon. They're all in bed with the CIA. They're all in bed with the Department of Defense. They are, as my microphone falls, they are you know, they're all in bed with those
Good.
people, and so they're. It's funny. Sometimes, you can't post this because it's medical misinformation. What's funny is a lot of the crap I talked about and that Jimmy Dore talks about and that Jackson Hinkle talks about and Aaron Mata and all these guys, they talked about NI stands for NATURALIMUNIXY. I can't say it out loud.
Yeah.
I can't say it right.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
talked about NI, and guess what? They got censored. And you couldn't say, "Oh, it came from a lab." And now Dr. Fauci, well, okay, now we're suspecting that it came from a lab. You tell me that's not a good Fauci.
It's all about fear too, because at that point, how much of it is Facebook being like? Of course, they're censoring, but are they censoring out of loyalty or are they censoring out of fear? Like fear that the wrath of God is going to come after them if they decide to actually have their own opinion.
Well,
God forbid you have your own opinion. Oh dear.
Oh, God forbid. And the Washington Post is now talking about NI being real. Bill Gates is now talking about it being real. So it's funny. What about those guys that spread misinformation, medical misinformation? What about those guys? Why don't you censor them? Where's that at?
What happened to? It's just as important to be able to know where to find the correct answer than just knowing them. We live in a society that not only is censoring, but because of the censorship, people can't learn adequately. And you're getting a bunch of people who are misinformed, and the fact of the matter is they're so misinformed that they're too afraid to actually look around and make up their own minds. And
exactly. And why are they afraid to make up their own minds? Why are they afraid to speak? Because on Twitter, you can tell the truth about the train station that just got bombed and they said it was Russia.
Yeah, Kramatorsk or whatever the city was called. Kramatorsk, something like that.
Kramatorsk.
Yeah.
If you tell the truth about that, there's a guy, I don't remember his name, but he got deleted off Twitter. They deleted his account because he was telling the truth about Ukraine. And we'll get into that. But if you tell the truth about Hunter Biden, which we'll get into that, they remember when they released his thing, they said, "Oh, if you tweeted out the article, Twitter would censor you and they would delete your tweet." So people just started tweeting out passages of the article so that people could read it. And now, guess what? The New York Times comes out with an article that says, "Oh, by the way, this story is real." And
by the way, sorry,
Hunter Biden.
By the way, there's no way to completely delete a tweet or a post immediately after it's come about, because there are going to be people online who see it and take screenshots with their devices
or retweet
before. Well, no, I'm not even talking about retweeting, because it can still be deleted if you don't take a screenshot and it's been retweeted. It's easy to remove any traces of that post that's been there unless you screenshot it. And a lot of people are quick enough with their phones where they will screenshot and show what they've seen before the mess can be cleaned up or censored in this case.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And we have screenshots, we have screen recording, we have screen capture, there's so much that we can do. The problem is you're still censoring the content because you're actually telling the truth. And so this censorship is getting way too far. We can't say whatever the we want. And I'm getting so effing tired of all this bullshit. I'm sorry, but as a YouTuber who's just trying to do his thing and pay my staff and do whatever I got to do, it's bull that now the Washington Post and the New York Times and the Huffington Post, all kinds of networks like that, they're now covering what I was trying to cover.
Even streaming services are censoring that now. Like a lot of you think you're going to see something as it was produced on a streaming service. If there's anything that seems even like 0.01% out of the ordinary, they're going to chop it out.
Oh dear. Oh dear, man. Yeah, it's really reminiscent of the kind of stuff you find in despotic nations. And the thing I think we have to remember is it's enshrined in our constitution. It's something different if you're talking a place where despotism is a thing, but it's enshrined in our constitution that we're entitled to freedom of speech. And I think that is why we have to make sure these social media platforms are nationalized or made into public utilities in a way that we cannot have the arbiters of truth be whoever's at the top of these organizations who's powwowing with the elite.
Don't expect the Supreme Court to be any help because they could easily.
They're pro-corporate,
My point being is they could easily decide that, oh, we declare censorship constitutional because, thanks to Marbury versus Madison and judicial review, they decide what is constitutional and unconstitutional. So they could easily say, you know what, we declare censorship constitutional, and that could go against the First Amendment rights. But the fact of the matter is, there is no check. We as a bicameral legislature think that that there are checks and balances to everything, and supposedly us having multiple Supreme Court justices gives checks and balances, but it doesn't. The fact of the matter is, there needs to be a check to the power of judicial review. And because they could easily say, censorship in any form is now constitutional.
So CNN realizes that they are losing the streaming wars.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who is not Adam, one of my friends, and you're not,
I should get him
liberal,
on the stream one day.
No, let me speak. For anyone that does not like the media, guess what? You're not the only ones. In fact, MSNBC has, or as I call them, MSDNC, has been falling, plummeting in their ratings. The media is not liked, and CNN is one of them. Now, they launched what's called CNN Plus, and in there, they're going to have Jake Tapper's book club, interviews with Dolly Parton, like we can't get that on any other YouTube link. They also have another thing where it's
Anderson Cooper's parenting sessions.
Anderson Parents, which we'll get to that, but
and someone's cooking. Service. Whose cooking show is it?
Katie's restroom, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember, but either way, they have been losing. Chris Wallace. I'm Chris Wallace. Welcome to the news on Fox. Doesn't that sound like him? A little bit?
Sounds like him. Mm-hmm.
It does. So I wanted to show you how badly they're losing, and I figured I would let Breaking Points, one of our shows, show you. Watch this.
The fun story, the fun block. We got some numbers on CNN Plus, and it's even worse than we possibly thought.
Yes, it is.
This is from TechCrunch, actually. So not some crazy outlet that looked into a little bit of how their launch is going. Let's put this up there on the screen. CNN Plus launched on April 29th and is already showing mediocre results in terms of standalone mobile
relatively
app.
kind characterization.
Sensor Tower released its initial figures that show the CNN app, which now houses the streaming service, added about 18,000 installs on the day of launch. During the 7 days ending on March 22nd, it had an average of 9,000 installs per day.
That is awful.
The reason this matters is because, as we already showed you, CNN is already throwing millions of dollars in subsidy towards their lifetime subscription on this. And another one that they point to within here, Crystal, which is crazy, is that one person familiar with the numbers said that Warner Media has spent...
Wait, hold on. So understand this, that CNN... Their CNN Plus has had 18,000 installs on the first day. Installs are the subscriptions. That's probably like all the David Axelrods, everyone who works at CNN because they're mandated to do so, I bet. Obama and Bush and all those guys. Every elitist probably subscribed. There's 18,000 of them in the world, probably. That is terrible for a subscription service.
Could I just want to point this out? I feel like there's a theme here with with any subscription service that is based around news sources is going to have this problem, because after you get past that first wave of stories, it repeats itself over and over again.
Well, we'll get to that. Hold on a second. Hold on. So
Well, and the secret is they came
Hold
out
on.
before they even started. They came out and they were giving 50% off, so they already knew they were losing money.
yeah, they were giving
Who gives a
$2.99.
discount on their release day?
Exactly. You
Yeah.
don't do
Fox
that.
Nation is
Now you can have tiers. You can have tiers. Hey, we got a $4.99, we got a $5.99, we got a $10.99, we got a Peacock does that. Hulu does that. But here's the thing. Those numbers are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some really bad numbers. Now, how much did CNN spend? How much did Warner Media spend? Let's see.
$100 million.
Oh,
Whoa.
they're
They're
could have been
hemorrhaging.
donating some of that to me.
They're hemorrhaging.
Already
Like,
to market CNN Plus. And just to remind you, from the internal numbers
Just to
already
market?
reported over
Oh,
at
wow.
Puck News, they need 5 million people to sign up for this thing in the first year, and with 10 million overall in order to make it commercially viable. That's insane. That's not going to happen. That would be on par with a legitimate cable membership. And so when you look at this and you see the number of installs, it's a relatively good proxy for the level of enthusiasm. And if the 100 million can only buy you a 50% overall baseline increase in the installation of the app, and that doesn't necessarily tell us the actual subscription, but is pretty directly correlated, as they point to here, this is a total disaster.
So, gentlemen,
just
you know, before you go on, before you go on, let me talk real quick, gentlemen. I'm gonna sit on both of your laps. Okay.
Like the sound of that.
So, this is. I need you to understand how bad this is. Disney had 4 million subscriptions in one day.
Oh, damn.
CNN needs 5 million in a year just to make it marketable, and 10 million overall just to make it last. So some of the, as you said, Anderson Cooper's got a parenting class. Yeah. What are you going to talk about? Oh, the nanny was late. Oh,
yeah, because his elitist, he's a Vanderbilt child.
This is what I see happening.
The heir to the Vanderbilt fortune is going to say, oh, yeah, parenting so tough. And parenting, I guarantee I've helped to raise my little sister. Yeah, it is tough.
If you look,
Anderson Cooper is rich. What are you going to say? Oh, the nanny was late. This was going on.
He got all of them. Yeah, exactly.
Then you have a cooking show. Okay, you want me to pay for a cooking show?
I think the cooking show was Caitlin Collins, by the way.
I don't care who it is.
I don't remember who it was.
I don't care who it is.
Maybe it was Casey Hunt. It was someone.
Casey Hunt is also. So here's the thing. I can go watch a cooking show. I can go watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I can watch one of Gordon Ramsay's things. I can watch Iron Chef. I can watch Top Chef. I can watch. You're gonna tell, and then a book club. Oprah already has a book club. Why would I watch Jake Tapper? And then you've got
gonna be reading some Islamophobic content. I'll tell you that much. Remember his Islamophobic comments?
Yeah, and then you have Brian Stelter, who hosts Reliable Sources. The ratings go higher when he's gone.
Yeah,
when he's gone, and now they gave him a daily show. They gave him a daily show.
Tuesday mornings.
Call me a fortune teller, because I think I can predict the future with this, and I'm going to tell you why. Yes, it's interesting you use Disney Plus as an example, because I could. So after those first few weeks, the amount of subscriptions that Disney Plus had started to dip. So what did they do? They bundled it with ESPN and Hulu Plus and made it a bundle, and now everybody's got it, because if you get one, you get all three.
Well, and exactly. And why do you think they tied this together with Warner or whichever service? It was going to be Jeff Zucker, who got thrown out because of the Andrew Cuomo thing.
I'm going to mute my microphone. I'm still with y'all, but I need to go water some greens, so I'll be back.
They had it to where it was going to be its own service. The numbers would be beyond disastrous, which Warner Media was like, hell no, we're going to tie it with something else. And you're right about Disney Plus. But the thing is more people would subscribe to Disney. Why? Well, it's got all my favorite TV shows. Every Marvel movie that's made is going to be there. And now Sony, I guess lost their contract or whatever it is, so now they're gonna put their Sony movies with Disney now. It's things people want to watch, and people like sports right? So hey, I just got done watching UFC Fight Night. I can now go watch my favorite Zach and Cody show. So let's go ahead and hear what these guys got to say.
Honestly,
gigantic disaster.
It honestly might overstate the subscription. Right. They go out of their way in this article to say this isn't a complete picture because there's other ways to access it, et cetera, et cetera. But as you all know, just downloading an app doesn't mean that you actually put in your credit card number and paid for the service.
That's right.
You can download the app and then open it up and be like, oh shit, I gotta pay for this? No, thank you. That happens a lot. So even the 18,000 guys, that is nothing on the first day, is potentially an overstatement of the number of subscriptions that they actually got. And not only was their marketing budget $100 million, which is more than what the network apparently typically spends in a year.
Whoa. Wow. Gets better.
The CNN exec said that the launch budget was $250 million, a quarter of $1 billion to get like 10,000 subscribers.
And here's the other one.
None of these folks good with finances.
Well, I mean, no. Here's what it is. These guys are good with finances because they get billions of dollars a year. They know how to make business. They just they don't know the streaming wars. They don't know because they think, oh, we got this. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to watch Wolf Blitzer do what he does every day?
These folks are way too prideful to admit that they failed. So what I'm saying when I say I'm going to predict the future is I'm going to say that Warner Media is going to keep CNN Plus, but what they're going to do is they're going to try to go the Disney bundle route, and they're going to try to make other services unbundle it with it.
But here's the thing. All right, I partnered up with Disney, and I partnered up with freaking Peacock, or I partnered up with well, not ABC. They're not going to want that. I partnered up with ESPN, Hulu. Who's gonna watch that content? We go to those services to get away from CNN.
Like I said, I think they're too prideful to admit that they failed because they don't know the streaming market and because they didn't do enough research before they went in. And I think that they're going to try to basically, like Warner Media is going to try to acquire something and partner it up with something else. Like what is another channel besides CNN that Warner Media owns?
I don't know, but I see where you're going.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, if you see, like, this is going to be the way of the future when it comes to the streaming wars, because I feel like you're going to see a lot more services bundling their products together. So if you pay this one flat price, you get everything. Like, I could see a situation where you almost have Discovery Plus and CNN Plus partnered together, or or you could see something like Magellan TV partnered with CNN Plus, something like that, where they want to keep their content geared towards a certain thing, and so what better to
is that certain thing gonna even
if you got people who are interested in documentaries, then maybe they'll be like, well, these documentaries were good. I see that there's some CNN content here. If the documentaries are good and they're both on the same service, why not take a glance simply?
No. Because people already hate CNN.
They may hate CNN, but the question is, will they like these people who are coming in for like documentaries and educational stuff? Do they like their documentaries more, or then they hate CNN?
Here's the thing, okay? Even if that is the case of, hey, maybe they do like them more, it's such a small number. It's not going to help CNN. So...
Well, that's what I'm saying. From the beginning, they're hemorrhaging. It's like they're trying to win a three-legged race with one leg.
Point to just in order to give everybody a good proxy, which is that remember Quibi, that failed video app? They spent over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Guess what? They had 300,000 install on their app on the very first day. When Disney Plus reached 4 million on their very first day.
That's where I got that from.
CNN is now at 18,000 on its very first day. Catastrophe.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't even mean that those people are paying.
Getting beat by Quibi, that's bad.
Yeah, not just getting beat like many times over. So, okay, according to the CEO, Jason Kilar, when he was asked about CNN Plus, he won't give you any numbers, but he says it is ahead of my expectations in terms of where the subscribers are.
Incredible, Sagar.
The other person says, we are off to a very strong start. I couldn't feel better about the journalism, the storytelling, the team, the product experience.
What product? Go ahead.
This is exactly why I said they are too prideful to admit that they screwed up. This is exactly my point. To say that, oh, it's exceeded expectations, that is simply a cover your butt move. That is simply you're in denial about how bad your product.
How are you so prideful? I don't know. Maybe it is prideful. I think it's delusional. No, it's delusional. Oh, we're ahead of where we wanted to be. What? Did you predict 5,000?
Did you predict one view? And that's it.
There's another video where this is Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, where all they talked about when this thing launched was Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And I'm going, okay, that'll get them a lot of views for now.
But then once it blows over, then what do you got?
Exactly. And the storytelling? What storytelling? You got this CNN Plus is basically your news people you see on a daily basis doing what they did already. Jeez, hold on. Let's keep going because this gets even funnier.
And they also said that they were very happy. This is a statement from the company. We are very happy with the launch of CNN Plus, and they underlined and bolded very, by the way. Our first week's performance is well ahead of expectations.
That's how you know it's true.
Audience has already indicated their love and interest of our programming, and we will continue to serve them more of it. We cannot comment on subscriber numbers as they are not public at this time.
If they were really happy with the numbers, you would know it. They would be all over the place.
That's right. That's right. Ladies, I'm showing you this because, I want you to know how badly CNN Plus is doing. Okay? They are so right.
Get off the sinking ship. Get off the sinking ship. This is like trying to patch holes with toilet paper.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Of course they would. And that is how every business operates. Look, it's obvious that this is a colossal boondoggle and a failure. And I have been watching some of the stuff that they at least put out publicly. We're talking about reliable sources daily with Brian Stelter. This is a man whose own show's ratings went up whenever he went on vacation.
So let's give him a daily show because he deserves it.
So now they have him on a daily. And in terms of the people that he's booking, I mean, these are absolute. I was just telling you today, the latest segment from Reliable Sources Daily is like, straight white men are doing too well in this world. I'm like, oh, wow, that's some content I really got to pay for. Can't hear that for free.
Wow. Let's.
I love this. They're just bashing. They're bashing their own company. Oh, I love it so much. Oh my gosh. This is some grade A, some grade A tearing that butt up.
This is, I'm sorry, but I'm just like, how straight men are. I can go to a college campus. I can go to my UNLV campus and hear that. Why the F do I have to fucking hear Brian Stelter
go on free services like,
you're a straight white man. Your CEO is a straight white man.
I can go on services like Haystack.
Exactly.
I can go on services like the Smithsonian. I can go on Hoopla or Canopy through my local library. I can go on PBS. I can download the PBS app and it'll say that. I can load. I've got more. Trust me. You could go in and just type live in YouTube. And you'll
find it. Well,
yeah.
Watch this.
our current media environment. It just shows you the Jake Tapper Book Club. I mean, they're flying to Los Angeles, filming these things at crowded restaurants. They've got Dolly Parton. Wow, I've never heard that one before. Chris Wallace. Have you guys heard of any of the interviews that the man has done? He had some like congressman or whatever
had William
on the show.
Shatner on.
William Shatner. Wow, I'm gonna pay for that. You know.
What was our launch budget? Sorry.
Our launch budget. Actually,
How much did we pay for the table? This was like
this was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
This was like 10 grand, which we had to put on the credit card. What else? I guess the rest of the set, all the other startup expenses. I don't know, probably 50.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 50,000. Which by the way,
which was a lot. Which was a heavy lift.
I was like, oh,
it was a heavy lift.
Yeah, you're looking at your credit card budget
and secure the studio.
Yeah, between all that, I guess it was about 50 grand.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I can't do the math, but we can figure out what a percentage of 250 million that is. I mean, the thing is, they're like high on their own supply. No one outside of the CNN building would think that people would pay for this.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. They're high off their own supply. Yeah. You know what they say? Never get high on your supply. She's right. And I said that at the beginning. Why would you do? No one's going to pay to see Jake Tapper when I can watch him before Aaron Burnett on Out Front after Wolf Blitzer. The lead with Jake Tapper. I can whatever. And he's not talking about the news. He's just doing a book club. He's not an interesting guy. He
do your market research.
War crime. He protects war crimes of the United States. He lies on behalf of the State Department and gets slaughtered by Rand Paul on war. And he's one of the reasons people don't watch your network. Chris Wallace on Fox News. The man is used to interviewing politicians and this and that. What are you doing?
Just do your market research. Like have an advisor that is specifically geared towards looking at spending trends when it comes to streaming services, because clearly something is lost in the translation here. Do your market research.
I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have a network that is basically like on in the background as a default. That in no way indicates that people care about what your totally interchangeable and forgettable personalities have to say.
Yeah.
You know, and so they just fundamentally misunderstood what it looks like to compete in an actual marketplace. I mean, they basically have like a sort of monopoly position in terms of the CNN cable channel, where it's just the default. It's a rigged market. People have very few choices, and that's what's on at the airport or whatever. When you actually have to get people to affirmatively choose to watch your content.
Or at the doctor's office. No, at the doctor's office, they have like the week to remain healthy. But yeah, if you go to like the bank, you go to CNN. If you have another network.
Any place that's boring as hell needs a boring as hell TV program to go along
boring
with
as hell, like that's how people fall asleep at the airport. Like, I can't sleep. Oh, CNN's on.
Oh, it's CNN.
Exactly.
That is an entirely.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then to make a conscious effort to choose that when you've got so many other places, and to top it all off, you've got a general consensus among the public that all news sources are biased in some way. That's another thing working against you.
Exactly. Let's put our biased ass news on an app and let people pay for biased ass news. Yeah. Why?
I'm telling you,
I can go on Apple
Nation's
TV and watch. Problem. I can go watch Little Voice or The Morning Show on Apple TV. I can go watch,
View It,
Game of Thrones on HBO Max. I can watch a movie on Netflix, and you want me to pay for your crappy ass news? That Crystal Ball said it correctly here. It's like
there are websites I can tell you about.
Conscious decision. They're being forced to do this. So
they're different. There are websites that I can tell you about where you can stream free content that's better than this.
Exactly.
All game, and especially when you look at like the ratings on the thing that people have no choice but to watch are dismal and terrible. So what made you think that it was worth spending $250 million on just like more of that. It really is mind-boggling, and I think once again is a very compelling case against the idea that we have anything approaching a meritocracy in this country, because the people that are running the show, they are not too quick on the uptake here.
Yeah, they're not quick as at all. And remember, they're so desperate, they're buying dynamic ads that ended up somehow on our Breaking Points podcast, just to show you that we have no say over that, because they're trying to target all of you. It's just funny. It's because, again, I said it, but the only reason that we are even able to thrive, be successful, and have an audience is because they suck so much. But they don't seem to understand that. The entire existence of alternative and independent media is a direct response to the utter vacuousness of the current mainstream. So it just, again, that's how it is. They'll never learn their lesson in terms of how they are so reviled by the actual free market. And don't
before I go on to there,
don't forget, they're going to try and rig this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to explain that. So he's right there, where it's like, why am I viewing their YouTube clip on my own live stream? Why am I not going and saying, let me play something from CNN? The only time I'm ever going to play something from CNN on this channel is to
background noise.
I'm getting ready to start the stream. Like, ladies and gentlemen, please watch CNN for a little bit. Or is to bash one of their segments. It's not because I want to watch them. Why do you think my YouTube show exists, and other Jimmy Dore and Jackson Hinkle and unfortunately Sam Sater and all these guys that are horrible leftists? Is because our crap is interesting. Now, a lot of those shows I mentioned, some of those are actually going to the right and covering what CNN is covering. Why would I do that? That means I'm not going to watch your channel. But even then, he's right. A lot of people are coming to his show, this Crystal and Sagar, and my show. Well, I wish they would come to my show, but 46 subscribers are coming to my show because CNN sucks, and MSNBC and ABC and PBS and CBS and NBC and all those guys, Fox News, they all suck.
They're all going to have the same problem.
Exactly. And they lie. They're conspirators. They are war profiteers. They lie about the State Department. They lie about the wars that we're in. They coddle the elites, and the American people don't like that. So what he said is they're going to rig this system. Hell yeah, they're going to rig this system. They know that they're losing. So their next wave is, okay, their next option is, all right, how are we going to, the only way we can win is if we rig this system.
They're putting lipstick on
destroy everybody else. They did it. They've already done it in their area. Now they're going to try and do it in our space.
So here's something that I find interesting. I wish that there was a study being done of even if a certain channel is magnified on your TV signal, which shows what you've been watching, there's a big difference between having something on your television and then actually paying attention to it. Because, yes, they could say we have all these downloads, we have all these people watching, but how many of them are actually paying attention to what's being streamed? There needs to be like a focus group or a study that is done where, if you really want to see who's winning the streaming wars, have people like just sit in the same room with a television that is on a certain streaming service, and then monitor how much time they actually spend looking face to face at the TV versus doing something else.
What I can say is it's very telling how they need another way for the American people to tell them we hate you.
It's freaking true, man.
Like, how would you need another way? Oh, let's do a streaming app nobody will watch.
Oh,
part of it too is that the streaming market is saturated. It's saturated. Peacock,
they got into it too
Hulu,
late, honestly.
Netflix. Yeah.
If they had done this, when the streaming wars got started, they may have had a chance. But even then, with the way the content is, it's just not viable. You're gonna have to have something like this is why I say, if you're gonna have news sources, partner it up with a streaming service that does documentaries or educational things,
or do what Peacock did with CBS All Access. It was actually CBS All Access. Well, that's for ABC. No, NBC. I'm sorry, I forget. But CBS All Access has Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put all of their TV shows. Yeah, they put some news, but all the TV shows that they have on CBS, like all the, if they host Reba, if they host iCarly, they host iCarly, whatever, they put their TV shows on there, but then they have extra TV shows you might want to watch.
And they also have live streaming channels now too. And
exactly. So it's not their news people sitting at their news desks being the hosts of these shows. They're allowing for creativity, and that's where CNN is sucking right now.
Because they can't grasp the idea of creativity in the first place.
Exactly, because exactly. Amazon is the biggest company in the world. I just want to let you know that, they are the biggest company in the world. They have 1.6 million workers in their retail warehouses and all of that. I think they're the second biggest employer behind Walmart. So they got a lot of employees. Well, as I've covered on this channel many, many, many times, they are terrible with their work conditions. Workers are forced to defecate in bags. I know it's graphic, but and also they are forced to pee in bottles.
It's funny you mentioned
that too. Deliveries going, and the other thing is that their warehouses have terrible working conditions. If you want to go to the bathroom, you got to go and you got to go walk 10 minutes to the bathroom place, but you only have a 10-minute break. So you walk back in 10 minutes and you're fired because it takes you 20 minutes just to go use the bathroom, or 25 if you can take a deuce.
One of the guys that was one of the drivers, because my mom, like I said, she schedules truck drivers for Amazon right now. And one of the guys got in trouble because his pee bottle actually busted while he was on a route.
Okay. First off, ill. Second, but imagine the work environment that your mom's coworker, he had to pee in the bottle because Amazon, that's why, ladies and gentlemen, your packages are able to come tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the dot, because Amazon forces their workers to avoid bathroom breaks and not go on them. That's why.
Well, they have these things called tattlers in some of the trucks, where and I think there's more places than just Amazon that does this, because other places like UPS and FedEx are starting to do this too, because they want to be able to compete with the speed of Amazon. But a lot of times what'll happen is it'll be able to tell when your car or when your truck is at rest or when your car is moving. That way they can monitor you and keep you from going on breaks or deviating from the route.
Okay, so they're monitoring you and they're tracking you, is what you're saying.
Yes, well, they're tracking the car.
Exactly. But now they want to put cameras inside the trucks to monitor what you're doing. So now they'll also buzz at you in the warehouse. So the drivers have it bad. The warehouse people have it bad. They'll buzz at you if they've noticed you haven't put enough packages on the conveyor belt to on the assembly on the line.
And yet it's so funny.
However, if someone passes out and dies, now it takes them 20 to 30 minutes. Oh, crap. So Amazon's employee, Christian Smalls, was trying to talk about Amazon's warehouses and how bad it is in New York. And they fired him because he was leading the walkout of the warehouse. And Amazon fired him, and they decided to smear him and say, oh, no, it's wrong. It's this, it's that, as they do. And people have been trying to unionize Amazon for a long time. Bessemer, Alabama is the last big giant example. High-profile people, Bernie Sanders, AOC, I think Chuck Schumer, a lot of people went over there to unionize Amazon, and it failed because Amazon spent $4 or $5 million just on that one effort last year. I think it was that one or a couple others, so that they don't unionize. Now, why would Amazon, Aaron, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, I can't go to Naeem because he's watering the greens or something. Washing up. I don't know. Jesus. Why would Amazon not want, and I know the answer, but for the audience, why would a giant multi-billion-dollar company not want for them to be unionized? I mean, gee, I wonder what could it be?
So first off, let me just preface this by saying there is so much. There's such a North Korea like regime going on here, and basically there's a big difference between what goes on behind the scenes and then what is depicted as far as how the rest of the world is supposed to perceive Amazon. Have you seen the newest commercials that come out? Like, oh, the benefits are great. I get to go.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
and I like they're talking about all these things, and all you're seeing is the seemingly utopian society that is involved with working with Amazon. And it's very, I see quite a bit of transference in between the way Kim Jong Un deals with the ruling of North Korea, in that all you see is the utopian
State media
depiction of
doing
North
it.
Korea versus the poverty-stricken side, who literally only got cell phones and most technologies like a decade ago.
Exactly. I mean, and again, yeah, and you see but you see how Amazon's putting out these things. It's propaganda. We're
Mhm.
not so bad. What the fuck are you guys talking about? These investigations. Our warehouses are amazing. By the way, they don't have air conditioning in the warehouses. Remember the Arkansas? Was it Arkansas or Kentucky? It was Arkansas that had the tornadoes in the
Yep.
fall, and Amazon workers were forced to stay in there even though there was a tornado, and they all got killed
By the way, near where I'm at, they're
in the
expecting
warehouse.
to build one of these Amazon warehouses near where I live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if I see like an influx of people who think they're going to be getting a nice working environment, but then the morale in the area sort of dips because of what it's going to be like there.
You're working 16-hour days.
Your pay is crap.
Your pay is 15 an hour, but
Your
you're
benefit
working 16-hour days. You work overtime, and Amazon doesn't pay you for that overtime, but you can't not go, because then Amazon will fire you and just take the next person who's desperate for a job in these towns that don't have anything else but an Amazon fulfillment center, and kinds of things like that. You're forced to defecate in bags and pee in bottles, and you're forced to. And then they were sued for I think $18 million or $63 million. Oh no, they told people you work for $18 an hour, but they stole all of their tips, so they had to pay the FTC like $60-something million. That came out in December, I think it was.
This is why
So
it's so bad.
Hold on. So all that is happening. Let me just ask you again: why would Amazon hate for its warehouse to be unionized? Take a guess, Aaron.
What are they going to do if people decide not to do the work for them? They don't want the reputation of Amazon to be hurt, and they don't want the process of people getting their packages so quickly to not happen. They don't want.
But
I think it goes deeper than that. I think it goes deeper than that, because I think, and Naeem, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you've been hearing the conversation, but I think what's going on is they don't want unions to come in and say, I have to give them a proper work day. You want me to put air conditioning? What, you want me to put a bathroom right near? You want me to allow bathroom breaks? These are robots, not humans. So they don't want to be told what to do by these unions. They want to maintain this harsh, terrible, crappy working condition
because it saves them money.
Exactly.
But I'll play devil's advocate here, and it's not like I agree with it, but I'll play devil's advocate. They're saying we just need these humans to hold over for a little while. If we allow for unions to come through, we're just going to speed up our automation process, and then soon we will just have robots working those warehouses, and those humans in the small town Indiana, in small town Arkansas, in small town Kentucky are going to lose that job, and good luck trying to find another job, maybe a Walmart greeter.
It would be more difficult for them to lose that job, because now they have to say exactly why. They can't just throw you out now because of the union. But at the same time, Amazon just wants you to. Did you see Jim Cramer's comment, Naeem, about how?
Oh yeah, Jim Cramer's some shits. I don't like that guy. But anyway,
could you summarize his comment?
So basically, he's talking about how ultimately this is a threat. A threat to Amazon's share prices and shareholder stake or value, in that there's going to be more costs that are going out. There might have to reduce elements such as stock buybacks in order to put into their employees. And this is, just to take a parallel here, I don't want to diverge too far, but this is what you're seeing happening with Howard Schultz, who just took back over CEO-ship of Starbucks. He immediately suspended all stock buybacks, which upset him, but also upset the shareholders out of this massive fear that Starbucks is all of a sudden going to be a union hub, which you're seeing Starbucks unionizing all over the place in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan, in Buffalo, New York, in different parts of the country. There's all kinds of Starbucks unionizing.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot more.
And you know, Starbucks in different countries are unionized, like in Greece and elsewhere, where they're not here in the United States. So
right, but if they do it here in the United States, now they're in trouble. But the thing is he said, well, they want you to be able to work. What he's saying is, if you get unions in here, people are not going to want to come to work. They're not going to want to work those double shifts. They're not going to want to work that overtime. So he's basically advocating and saying that Amazon should be able to
go down because people will have the choice.
The fact is, the general public, all the general public is seeing is that it's working for them financially, and because of that, you're going to see
they're getting cheap shit shipped to their door, and it's ending up at their doorstep in 2 days. And now unions are threatening 2-day delivery. Have you seen the Amazon ads that came out recently all over Hulu and Netflix and everywhere else?
Well, I was just mentioning that earlier.
Like Hulu and places.
I was just mentioning that earlier.
Do you want your 2-day delivery threatened? Oh dear, my oh my! And it's like it's a ridiculous commercial. But
I can see a follow the leader type situation coming, where you're going to see UPS and FedEx and all these other places that deliver packages starting to do the same thing because they feel that the industry itself can get away with it.
Well, and here's the thing, right? And I'll take it back over real quick. Let me just handle this. What you have here too is this. What you have is, these. He's saying that people don't want to work. People aren't going to take their shifts, and Amazon should be allowed to make you work without pay. They should make you work in no air conditioning, unconditioned air conditioned warehouses. All that whole statement of people aren't going to want to do work. There's a reason my mom is working next weekend, and it's because they're paying her. There's a reason why people are okay taking a double shift if you pay them more. People don't want to take a double shift. They do it because they're forced. But if a union says, if you have to take a double shift or work overtime, you're going to get your same amount of pay or a higher amount of pay if you work overtime, that's going to raise production for the company. But Jim Cramer's putting that out like, oh my God, you're not going to get your coffee or your dildo sent to your vacuum cleaner. You see what and your stroller. So, Amazon just got very fearful because Christian Smalls, as we were talking about, with his little group, managed to get a union victory. And here at this show, we are pro-labor, we are anti-censorship, we are anti-mandate, but we are pro-labor. So if I had a way to get my workers unionized, I would, but we are not that big of a business yet. However, and they're not paid much at all either. Lex would know, our editor. But here's the thing. They now got a union in Staten Island in that warehouse. This was a huge deal. And this is exciting now that we've discussed why it's exciting, because now those people are going to get some representation. Now
they're going to internally cover it up.
Possibly. Amazon came out saying, oh, we don't agree with this because the workers can be direct with Amazon. Yeah, you can directly pee in a bottle. You can directly defecate in the back.
Do we have any results on Bessemer, though?
Bessemer? That was rigged.
I really think that...
No, but now they reran the election. What's going on with the new election?
I don't know. But before we go there...
I sincerely think that it's going to be a situation where... Because here's the thing. You're going to have other warehouses besides the one in Staten Island where people are going to see this and be like, wow, if they can do it, we can do it too.
Yeah.
And that's not what Amazon wants. And so they're going to try to do what they can to cover up the fact that the unionizing ever happened in Staten Island.
Which there's no way to not cover that up. To cover that up. there's one problem though. Her name is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She tweeted out when they were victorious. Basically, it's, oh my God, the guns, we got this, we did it. Crystal Ball basically tweeted, where were you when Christian Smalls asked you to be here, but you said no because of security concerns? But 2 weeks later, you showed up at a Met Gala wearing a Tax the Rich dress. She cited security concerns, and she cited the scheduling conflict. Oh, but you can go rub elbows with the richest people in the world, the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates, the Dave Ramsey's, all those guys. You can Elon Musk's, the Biden's, the other. You can go there, but you abandon your work. And then she said, AOC said, after she abandons the workers, to Crystal Ball, maybe you should do your due diligence because that's not even in my district. Aside from a conflict, a scheduling conflict, we've requested oversight into Amazon and done investigations to talk to workers. What better way to show your support for these workers than showing up to a rally to try and unionize this warehouse? And by the way, people from the Bronx and the Queens, they travel to Staten Island to work at that warehouse. I mean, Naeem, let me get your opinion on this. I'll come to you first. I mean, what do you think's going on here? I think she's just abandoning the working class.
There's that, and she might argue that if geographically that warehouse itself isn't in her district, she'll be stepping on the toes of her colleague and whoever the representative of that district is, and so she has to make sure she doesn't. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Obviously,
no. Hold on.
It's important to have an objective argument.
Hold on, gentlemen. Hold on. I don't want you playing devil's advocate on this channel. I don't play devil's advocate for any politician.
I know, but you have to have in order to ensure conducive debate. You just want to give all perspectives. I'm going to lay my opinion out here on my sleeve thereafter. I'm just saying the argument could be maybe the representative of that district tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Hey, this is my district. Stay on your own turf." Right? But no, I believe in general. Bernie Sanders flew out to Alabama and was there at the Bessemer Union Drive and made himself present. I don't know if the senators from Alabama, Doug Jones, no, I don't think he was senator at the time. I think this was after he lost the seat. Whoever were running senators of Alabama didn't all of a sudden come to Bernie Sanders' door. Well, howdy, my fellow colleague. You were stepping on our turf, showing up in Alabama, you see. We don't appreciate that. Neither does the congressman or woman who represents Bessemer, Alabama, you see. So you got to make sure that doesn't happen again. Are we clear?
Pronto? That little whistle.
Perfect. All right.
A little whistle.
I love that little whistle, but
he said you love your whistle.
That's a cheap cop out on AOC's part. I mean, I don't have a lot to say. In my opinion, it's a cheap cop out, but that's what she might argue. Just be prepared when you bring her onto your show to have an interview. She'll say, "Well, it's another representative district. I cannot be stepping on their turf." And how will you respond to Miami? That's my question.
But she can go to Miami and eat at a beachside sidewalk cafe with her boyfriend Riley. She can go to Texas and help Beto out. She can go to Texas and endorse Jessica Cisneros in Cuellar's district. She can go, right? So, and even if it's not her district, she's got district members of her district, residents of her district.
Who work there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm with you. I'm on board. Mm-hmm.
Listen, this is AOC and the progressives being cucks and establishment pukes because they are abandoning the working class. And I wish I could play the Jimmy Dore clip. I don't really want to go find it, but Aaron, let me bring you in here. Because to me, this is the progressives. It shows who she really is. To be going to the working class and say, I can't even tweet about this before the victory happens. I can't put out a video statement. I can't hold a rally in my district about the fact you can't even do that, but you go hang out with the rich of the rich, the richest of the rich at a Met Gala. To me, she's just another corrupt person. And Kyle Kalinske, Naeem, you might know this, try to make his own definition of corrupt until Jimmy Dore put it up on the screen, because he said, corruption is only if you take money from something. No, corruption is selling out for your own interests. It could be a book deal. It could be a speaking fee. It could be anything. Aaron, are you awake? Oh, boy. Let me... Naeem, you there?
Hello. What was the question? Sorry, I fell asleep.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Aaron falling asleep on our stream. Hold on a second.
I was also falling asleep. My bad.
Hold on.
Oh, he really fell asleep. He's not imitating the fact that I fell asleep. He did say he had to get up early. And I thought my ass was falling asleep on you, bro.
Okay, we have muted his microphone.
That's the plus of going live. That's the plus of going live.
I've never had someone snore on my channel before.
I've not fallen asleep on your ass before, but
Yeah, but you still like stayed awake. Aaron is muted, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry.
hope his battery doesn't die out by the morning.
Oh, my side hurts.
All right. Oh my gosh. Give me a second to get some water. We'll be right back. Let me get some water. Ooh wee.
Don't take too long. Oh man, ladies and gentlemen. We are without Aaron Faxon. But let's see. Here, hold on. Let's see if he's snoring. Yep. I don't mean to laugh at him. It's just hilarious. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I will say is this whole cop out by AOC is absolutely stupid. It's terrible. And what it shows is all she is a product, not a product of the working class, but a product of the establishment. She is a corrupt sellout. You saw it when, with Force the Vote, she did not force the vote on Medicare for all. No, it's not time, and the women's there was no internet. One of my classmates used that as an excuse, which I think is a terrible excuse. Now is the time for Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic when the American people would support you, and 200,000 deaths of 200,000 deaths due to the illness. I can't say it. Could have been prevented. A third of the deaths could have been prevented with Medicare for all. Even if it did not pass the House, it could have given us a list of here's who we can go after. AOC didn't force the vote. They didn't force the vote on the minimum wage or on UBI when they could have with the COVID bill. That was a pass for Biden. So, to me, she's corrupt, and corruption is selling out for your own interests. Whether it be a speaking fee, a seat on a committee, you get to be Speaker of the House, a book deal. I don't care what it doesn't have to be direct money. It doesn't have to be money. Kyle Kalinske was trying to defend the freaking squad. Oh, unless you take money. No, it's not. That's not what the definition of corruption is. And
he is acknowledging though that they're caving. He's just saying they're not corrupt in the traditional money sense.
Okay, but that's not the definition of corruption. The definition of corruption is selling out for your own interests. Selling out doesn't have to be getting money. Selling out could be, I'm not going to criticize our Department of State. They're the ones pushing for war in Ukraine. They're the ones voting for funding for the Iron Dome program, and AOC's dumbass is voting present and putting out a word salad 30-page statement saying exactly, you don't even know why. And then when Mehdi Hassan confronts her on it, she still doesn't say why. So just realize all the corruption that's going on in the Democratic Party. Okay. All right. So AOC lied, but congratulations to the Staten Island warehouse and Amazon. That's awesome. Now, are you okay to cover Ukraine?
Yeah, you want to cover the nukes in favor of the ukes? No.
Are you really okay? I don't know if you heard, but I unmuted his mic and it showed him snoring.
Is he still snoring? Let's find out.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me go find it.
What if we put him on and explain to Ukraine? All right, let's see. Holy shit.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I snore worse than that, but
it's getting louder too.
This is what I hear when Biden's talking. Oh, folks, it's been a, Aaron, we love you, man. I'm not trying to make fun of him. I snore 10 times worse. I sound like a bear being ran over by another bear in a truck.
So do I. I'm a mouth breather, which is also pretty bad.
That's me. Horrible.
Sounds like I'm sucking a dick or something sometimes.
I didn't know that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like for me.
That's not what I picture. All right, hold on a second.
It's like me a dick in a while.
Oh my god. Hold on. All right. So Joe Biden called Vladimir Putin a war criminal. So just for everybody for the Ukraine situation, and Aaron Mate is going to go over this in this clip, but first we're going to play Joe Biden calling Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, a war criminal, and I'm going to tell you exactly why we're going to cover it, and it's because the media lies all the time. But let's play this. It's from Jimmy Dore. What?
I remember I got criticized for calling Putin a war criminal. Well, the truth of the matter is so what happened to Putin. this warrants him. He is a war criminal. But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight.
Why do you need to continue the fight? Why do you need to continue the fight? You know why you got criticized for calling him a war criminal? Number one is because you're a hypocrite. That's probably the reason why.
And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial. This guy is brutal. And what's happening in Bucha is outrageous. And everyone's seen it.
Genocide?
No, I think it is a war crime.
What are you going to do about it, sir? Are you going to do more sanctions on Russia?
I'm seeking more sanctions, yes. I'll have time to announce that.
Yeah, let me tell you though. There's a few things I take issue with. This guy voted for the legislation that gave war criminal in chief the ability to kill over 250,000 people in Iraq. I'm talking about George W. Bush. This guy also supported war criminal in chief in order to make sure that the drone strike program is expanded in killing a whole bunch of innocent civilians, including a 9-year-old American citizen child when in Yemen and other places when he expanded the drone war with Barack Obama. So I don't know about war criminals, but this guy sounds mighty close to one, or in fact, he sounds mighty close to two himself.
No kidding. And you can still hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're right. And what did him and Obama do? They took us into 5 more wars. Now, let me just say this, folks. Al Gore or whoever else would have come in would have taken us into those 5 wars. I'm sorry. I like Al Gore. Oh, Al Gore. But they would have taken us into those 5 wars. But Obama and Biden dropped more bombs than George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. In 8 years. 8 years, Obama dropped more bombs than President George W. Bush.
Who's a war criminal himself.
But, you know, Obama went into Libya, he went into Syria, he went into Sudan, he went into Pakistan, kept Afghanistan going, he kept Iraq going, he went into Africa, he went into Somalia, started bombing for no apparent reason. We have a shadow war in Africa. We are aiding Saudi Arabia in a genocide, giving them weapons, allowing for a blockade of food to prevent food and medicine and nutritional healthy things and first aid and all of that. And then Joe Biden, and they had a 90% civilian death rate with their drone strikes. Remember how they said, "Oh, we have precision strikes. We got precision strikes. We know exactly who we're hitting. I'm hitting the show tonight." No, but then Daniel Hale, you know who Daniel Hale is, right? He came out and said, "I'm tired of droning these people. I'm tired of sitting at a computer droning these people." You saw his statement where he said, "I'm sorry for releasing papers. If that's where you're going to send me to jail, go ahead." And that was very powerful because he stood in that mountain watching those people get droned to death, get blown to pieces. And Joe Biden approved of that. And Joe Biden also approved of the Iraq war, which came with that was a war crime in itself, which came with other war crimes within it. You know, the torture program, you know, the grounds, the Abu Dhabi and Abu Ghraib. No, not Abu Dhabi. Abu Ghraib and what's the other one?
Bagram in Afghanistan. You mean the air base over there?
Yeah, but also the where we keep outside, Abu Ghraib and in Cuba and somewhere. Guantanamo Bay. So he knew all about that, and he approved of those wars. He approved. So.
And as war criminal in chief himself, remember, Joe Biden oversaw an operation that was supposed to kill an ISIS-K leader, but ultimately killed a family of 10 civilians, with I think 7 of whom were children, maybe.
Yes. And not only that, but we're helping in Yemen. We're giving Israel I hope I'm saying it right. We're giving them billions of dollars, $115 billion a year, whatever it is, for their Iron Dome program, which they do not need our help. They give their people universal health care, by the way, in Israel, and we don't have it here. And
if they want Iron Dome, they could fund it themselves.
Exactly, and they do already fund it. If they don't need U.S. money, it's for their defense system. Who's coming at Israel? Nobody. They're the ones pushing Palestine out of the West Bank. Anyway, and bombing them and taking away their education and killing their children.
But he's war criminal in chief. Joe Biden
is war criminal in chief. That's who Joe Biden is. And Joe, that place, the venue where they prosecute war criminals. If you really want
Hague.
to take,
Yeah.
they do it in the International Criminal Court, the ICC, which the United States won't join because they don't want their own officials getting prosecuted and headed to jail. Because George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, all of them would be in jail. I wonder. So it's a bunch of hypocrisy that he's now. I'm so worried about
hypocrisy on that.
The Ukrainians and this and that. So this is hypocrisy from Joe Biden. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Joe Biden showing he doesn't care about this. Now, the thing about Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen, while I get the next clip up, Chrome is not responding. But the thing about Ukraine is this. The United States did a coup in 2014. They used the Azov battalion to overthrow the democratically elected government. The new Ukrainian government, the Nazi Ukrainian government, started shelling the people in the Donbass region in Luhansk and Donetsk and Luhansk. And finally, Putin had to go in and invade to try and protect his people. He created this brutal war of 8 years. So that's what happened is they created all of that. Okay. And they had a Minsk agreement. The Minsk agreement was basically a diplomatic way for them that Putin agreed to, and that Zelensky and all of them, the United States had agreed to, that said, hey, stop shelling people, stop bombing people. We'll stop bombing you, and we'll stop shooting everybody, and you let the rebels hold elections and all of that. For 8 years, Putin stood by while they did not do it. So they didn't follow that agreement. So finally, Putin had to go in this time because he's protecting the people that are united with Russia most of the time. They speak Russian. They consider themselves Russian natives because they just keep doing it. So here's a BBC clip, and I wanted you to comment on this.
Oh, that BBC propaganda. All right, serve it up.
And let me serve you up some propaganda right here. Here we go.
Ukrainian troops northwest of Kiev, slowing the advance of Russian forces, hoping to save their capital and perhaps focus minds in Moscow. Officials from both sides continue to talk, looking for a negotiated settlement. The Kremlin said the discussions were positive, but neither side says where the progress is being made. Today, though, Ukraine's president addressed a gathering of Northern European leaders in London and dropped a hint of what might be part of any future negotiated settlement.
Ukraine is not a member of NATO. We have heard for years that the doors were open, but we also heard that we could not join. It's a truth, and it must be recognized.
Hold on. I just want to, because we're going to play Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate's clip. What is Zelensky admitting there, right, Naeem? He's admitting we've known for years that we've wanted to join NATO, but we've also known it's not going to happen. That's what he just admitted right there. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward. And that I need people to know that because we're going to cover even more. But watch this.
Hint of giving up the idea of joining NATO may be seen by some as a concession to this man, Russia's foreign minister, who today, as he met his Iranian counterpart, set out some of Moscow's demands.
The
neutral military status of Ukraine, security guarantees for all participants, the demilitarization of Ukraine, so that no threats to the Russian Federation ever come from its territory.
The European leaders, hosted by Boris Johnson, were not, however, in London to talk about possible peace deals.
Oh, I want to hear everybody saying, we need peace, we need peace. I wonder what else they would talk about. Hold on, let this British dude tell us why what they would talk about instead of peace. Aren't you curious, Naeem?
Very curious. I mean, isn't peace the ultimate goal here? Let's stop killing them civilians.
Right. Let's just get back to normal. Let's get back to our normal corruption. Okay. So I wonder. Let's figure out what they were talking about.
But how to bolster their defenses in case the war spreads and increase their support for Ukraine.
What's your take there?
Oh wow. Well, all I have to say. Excuse me. All I have to say is business as usual, man. I mean, they got to continue maintaining those defenses. They got to ensure that they go ahead and make more money and more profiteer off of things. And it's interesting to see how BBC frames it. Like, yeah, peace is a whole bunch of non-business related nonsense. The real people, the people who matter, Boris Johnson and the like, are sitting down and doing the real business. And the real business is, this war is going to go outside of Ukraine. I'm horny for some good war. Let's get it started. Right? Like, they want it to go outside of Ukraine. They want it to become World War III because, man, they're going to cash in. They're going to cash in a lot selling all those weapons. So
most of them would get destroyed. Well, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But they'll take their money and run.
Oh, yeah, they'll go to space with Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Bill Gates. And Bill Gates will get them their digital IDs. The other part is, what's interesting is, we need to bolster our defense because this war, we don't want to spread and we don't want to get more and more. Wow, amazing. I mean, you put it very well.
The only way it's not going to spread is by promoting peace. I mean, yesterday you saw the foreign minister, or was it the defense minister? Oh no, it was the foreign minister of Ukraine. He was out there, basically the equivalent of the Secretary of State. He was out there at a NATO meeting in Brussels with Antony Blinken, and he was saying the only reason we're out here, the Ukrainians are out here at this meeting in Brussels, is not to talk about, and I think it was Brussels. He's like, is not to talk about. Or pardon me, the reason they were out there is to talk about how Ukraine can get more guns, and guns. Instead of saying like Medea Benjamin from Code Pink highlighted, she tweeted, instead of guns, and guns, there should be talk about how can we get negotiations, ultimately achieve peace.
Exactly.
And even when Zelensky wants to strive for peace, let's suppose he does, right? The United States ain't giving him that off-ramp by sanctioning Moscow to the high heavens.
Yeah. So two things. Number one, because I forgot to hit that part that Biden said. The whole they're not out here to talk peace. They have boxes of unopened boxes of missiles, untouched, sitting in the Ukrainian government. Raytheon delivering those. I mean, you're going to tell me you need more than what you already have? Okay. And you watch how the BBC's news coverage turns from, well, we don't want peace to we want peace. Watch.
This is quite unbelievable what is happening now in our continent. And we need to make sure that we build the strongest, widest possible.
Pause for a second. In our continent, whatever happened to Boris Johnson campaigning so hard for Brexit? Our continent, my ass. Now it's our continent. When there's money involved. When there's defense contracts involved.
Exactly. And now they're Russian. Now they're not Russian separatists. Now, when Ukraine was bombing them, the people in the Donbass region, in Donetsk and Luhansk, they're Russian separatists. Now they're Ukrainians. I didn't know that there was a difference.
Oh man.
Right? You see that? Okay.
Yeah, that's
coalition to ensure that Vladimir Putin does not succeed, that we wean ourselves off Russian hydrocarbons.
Well, wean yourself off of all hydrocarbons, please and thank you.
Well, please, everybody. But it's a fossil fuel war. That's what Boris Johnson just gave away there. Because guess what they did? They stopped the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah.
Nord Stream, what is it called? Nord Stream oil pipeline, whatever?
Nord Stream 2 or whatever, yeah.
Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream 2A pipeline.
Yeah,
two-way pipeline.
Yeah, now they
stopped that.
Try to get some Canadian
right, because now Russia provides 40% of the oil to Europe. Well, guess what? At Comcast, ExxonMobil, and all the whoever other companies, I don't know the other oil companies here, they are saying, why do we need Europe? We could do that. We can provide the EU with all of our oil. U.S. oil. Export. That's what this is about. It's not about peace. It's not about the people of Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen, like they claim. It's about oil, like all wars are. What's the Iraq war about? Oil. What's that? What resources in Palestine?
There's a lot of resources and a lot of religion and a lot of.
But what are the resources that the U.S. are after?
Well, there is believed to be some gas reserves in the Mediterranean coast.
And then there's, I think, nylon or something like that in Afghanistan.
Oh, Afghanistan has a lot too. Lithium. They have copper.
Nylon,
they have cobalt.
copper.
They have
All
opium.
those resources.
Opium for some good heroin. You know.
Yum.
No, and here's the thing: you think heroin's an underground business? Governments trade in heroin, bro. They trade in opium.
Oh.
They'll tell you they don't, but they do.
I bet they have child sex slaves too. So
oh yeah, you get those in Libya.
Yeah, exactly. And remember they said that Muammar Gaddafi had child sex slaves and that there were terrorists all over. Meanwhile, Muammar Gaddafi was killing the terrorists. And as soon as he started trying to actually help the people, now we got to go take down a dictator, which Hillary Clinton. Oh, by the way, that's a war crime too, regime change war. And Biden and Obama and Hillary all supported that. And Blinken.
Oh,
and
they're hard for some regime change war right now in Russia. You heard Biden spill the beans about removing Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, he must.
This man can no longer remain in power.
And then they walked it back immediately. Like, he didn't mean regime change. He did not mean regime change. All right.
Western leaders know that a negotiated settlement will become possible only if Vladimir Putin sees no alternative. And that's why they're determined to keep up the pressure on Moscow.
What does that mean if there's no alternative for Putin?
What are you saying? We go in there and Putin has two choices. We kill him or he does suicide. Is that what you guys are referring to in no alternative? You're trying to bring back some World War II hocus pocus?
Because you say until Vladimir Putin has no alternative. Do what the West wants? Is that what you want? You know Putin's not going to do that.
Bend over backwards for their asses.
Moscow, militarily, economically, and diplomatically. And what better way to do that than this? 3 NATO prime ministers from Poland, Slovenia and the Czech Republic visiting war-torn Kiev by train, a show of solidarity and Russia's failure to seize the capital. There were more economic sanctions for Russia too, the EU banning the export of luxury goods and Britain imposing asset freezes and travel bans on 370 Russians, including a defence minister, a former prime minister, and oligarchs and their families, along with many allies of Vladimir Putin. But all the pressure, all the diplomacy has yet to halt the Russian advance, and the devastation of Ukraine's cities continues.
Okay. What did they say there? We have sanctioned the out of Russia. We are preventing medicine and food and first aid and health products and beauty products and feminine hygiene products and masculine hygiene products and all those things from getting into Russia, and yet Putin's still going. Meaning sanctions don't work. They're admitting right there, hey, these sanctions are not working. And Biden wants more sanctions. Naeem?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We saw it in Iran. We saw it in Syria. We saw it in North Korea. We saw it in Libya. We saw it in Iraq. We're seeing it in Afghanistan. Sanctions aren't going to make much of a difference ever. If anything, they strengthen the popularity of the
person in charge.
Of the person. Look, you brought a segment from Crystal and Saga earlier in this live stream. They had a good piece earlier this week talking about how Putin's popularity has actually many indications show that it has risen in Russia, and the economic impact to Russia has hit the average Russian more than the oligarchs. The oligarchs have more than enough reserves to protect themselves.
Yep.
So, if you really want to see success with sanction, you go and target the specific oligarchs up and down. Be my guest. these broad sweeping, wide implicating sanctions that are levied against the whole country aren't going to do anything but bolster the popularity of the president, because Putin's going to say, see how much the West hates us, and cause more discontent among the Russian people against the West and against the US, the UK, and Europe. So, I mean, you're pushing Russia more and more into China's hands, which, China's
China
happy
would
to gobble
love.
Russia
Well,
up
I mean,
right now.
they're already out. They're already allies. So it's not like they're China. We need allies. Do not
But
cancel me.
You're strengthening
their alliance
from more of a strategic alliance to a genuine friendship and trust.
Because Xi Jinping is gonna ally more, and they already have our securities. Securities, our currencies, our dollars, right? All of that. Japan and China have all that.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw how what's scaring the United States right now is that the petrodollar. You saw that how it's dropping in value.
It's dropping in value. Saudi Arabia has already announced that they're considering selling petroleum and oil resources, Saudi oil resources, to China in the Chinese currency, the renminbi, the yuan, which goes against the whole ethos, the whole essence of the petrodollar. So, and we should get into that at some point. Why Saudi Arabia is actually, quote unquote, standing up to big brother United States. That's it's an interesting conversation, and that's not to glorify Saudi, because it's not to glorify Saudi, but there's a lot of conversation there and a lot of nuance worth discussing.
Oh yeah, maybe we'll talk about doing a live stream hopefully next week if you can. But exactly, I mean, and so that's what's scaring them, and all these sanctions, they're now hitting the average Russian person. Okay, that's not Iran, the Revolutionary Guard. Who's the president right now?
Ibrahim Raisi.
He's not stopping his beliefs. The Revolutionary Guard is going further away from the United States. And now, because the United States is trying to stop buying oil from Russia, guess who they're trying to make deals with? Venezuela and Iran. I thought they were terrible people. I thought Venezuela were dictators. And by the way, Biden started calling Nicolas Maduro Mr. President of Venezuela.
Whatever happened to Juan Guaido?
Whatever happened to Juan Guaido? Oh, now that it's convenient, now it's President Maduro. Maduro, how are you doing, Mr. President? Oh, now that we've gone over, so remember in the beginning clip, all right, Naeem, right? You remember, but for the audience, I played a clip from BBC saying, "Hey, we want peace and all that." And we reviewed that, but we also revealed. It also revealed how Boris Volodymyr Zelensky actually knows we can't get into NATO, but the doors are remaining open. Let's get further into that. So here's a clip from Jimmy Dore. Took me a while to make this, and it's a very long clip because I put all the different segments together in a way where it's faster. This is going to be a fun.
Oh, is that what I interrupted you with earlier? I'm so sorry, bro. Did it work out though?
No, what you interrupted me was the Joe Biden clip. But here's Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Mate, he revealed what happened in Duma, Syria. People who think that Assad actually gassed his own people, he didn't. The WCPA, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. They revealed that they were sidelined by the investigators because they didn't want the truth released. So here's the clip, and I'll pause it. But they're going to talk about how Zelensky actually rejected peace. So he's coming out to the Grammys and saying, "Oh, thank you for supporting Ukraine. All we want is peace." Fucking Grammys, what the hell is wrong with you?
Amy Schumer wanted Zelensky to come to the Oscars as well. She tried to get that to happen. I guess Will Smith's slap wasn't enough for media attention. Again,
I can't believe he's supporting his wife cheating and all that. So, yeah. All right, here we go. Let's watch this clip.
I saw you tweeted this out. You said on February 19th, the Wall Street Journal said German Chancellor Scholz proposed to Zelensky that Ukraine renounce its NATO aspirations and declare neutrality as part of a wider European security deal signed by both Putin and Biden. Zelensky said no, and here is what it is. It says, so that's the German guy, Mr. Scholz, made one last push for the settlement between Moscow and Kiev. He told Mr. Zelensky in Munich on February 19th that Ukraine should renounce its NATO aspirations and declare neutrality as part of a wider European security deal between the West and Russia. The pact would be signed by Mr. Putin and Mr. Biden, who would jointly guarantee Ukraine's security. So this could have.
So what did the Minister of Russia say? We want security for all parties. That's what he said, right? So I just wanted to
avoided a war. It sounds to me like this could have avoided a war.
Does that sound like it could have avoided a war?
Yeah, but you know what could have also avoided a war, to be honest with you? If Biden just came out and told Zelensky straight up and told everyone on the global stage, NATO, you don't qualify right now, Ukraine, because Ukraine doesn't qualify to enter NATO. You're not going to be a net positive to NATO. You're going to be a net negative to NATO. So we're not going to let you into NATO at all right now. And that's the end of that. But Biden kept on saying, maybe, maybe not, maybe, maybe not. When behind closed doors, it was very clear Ukraine was not going to be accepted into NATO. So while Zelensky didn't do enough to make peace, I don't think Biden did enough to make peace either, because he could have just came out and said that. But you know what Jimmy Dores is alluding to is a pact that was discussed in Munich, which would have seen a neutral Ukraine where Russia and the United States would agree to both provide security assurances to this neutral Ukraine that will be a buffer zone and not take any sides in the war, which would have satisfied Russian strategic security concerns and would have also satisfied Ukrainian strategic security concerns in that the United States, as well as Russia, are protecting Ukraine against outside threats. So this was really the only way this would have happened, and this is ultimately going to be the only way peace could really end up happening. I will stipulate, however, and this is
rejected.
This was rejected by Zelensky. Biden did not make enough of an effort to go out and say the honest truth, which was Ukraine wasn't going to be able to get into NATO in the first place. But I'm also going to highlight this, and while all those steps should have been taken, it's very clear that Vladimir Putin had other intentions. I don't know if the whole Russian state had other intentions, but Vladimir Putin himself, in his February 21st address, I believe it was the 21st. It was the Monday the 21st. Yes. When he addressed the Duma, the Russian parliament, and he made a televised speech where he announced that Russian peacekeeping missions will come in to protect the republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, and he declared them as independent republics as per Russia's perspective. He made many references to pre-Soviet era decisions, such as Lenin's decision to make Ukraine a separate region, and the 1953-1954 Khrushchev decision to transfer Crimea from Russian authority to Ukrainian authority under the USSR, and other historical references that made it very clear that he did have revanchist goals. He did have goals to rebuild an empire or whatever it was. So I do think that those would have been the right efforts that the West and Zelensky should have taken. I don't know that they would have fully negated the possibility that this invasion would have happened anyway. But those are things that the steps we should have taken, Biden should have taken, and Zelensky should have accepted Scholz's offer in Munich.
I think he should have accepted. I think he would have definitely prevented a war. Now let's continue with the clip and let's see what they say here.
Mr. Zelensky said Mr. Putin couldn't be trusted to uphold such an agreement and that most Ukrainians wanted to join NATO. His answer left German officials worried that the chances of peace were fading.
Yeah, he's definitely being used as a pawn.
So, hold on. So, Jimmy Dore asks him, and they were right to worry, but Jimmy Dore asks, I was about to say Russian Aaron Mate, but he asks Aaron Mate, is Vladimir Zelensky being used as a pawn? And let's see what he has to say. You ready, Naeem?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Here he is being offered by Germany a proposal that he's going to be ultimately have to accept anyway, or else his whole country gets destroyed. Unfortunately, that's just the grim reality of committing to Ukrainian neutrality and not joining NATO. And he knew, and he's admitted this, and you might have the clip, Jimmy.
Oh, here's the clip.
What Zelensky admitted. Let's hear what he admitted. He was told by NATO that you're not going to join, but we're not going to admit that publicly. We're going to keep the door open publicly. So basically, keep the door open publicly to an outcome we're actually not going to accept in practice. Why? Just to bait Russia. So Zelensky chose to risk war to go along with that ruse.
And that's the ruse that Biden was spearheading and was conducting, because Biden ultimately knew, and the whole NATO conference knew, Jan Stoltenberg and all the others knew that Ukraine was not going to be accepted into NATO. And that was known since the invitation was even given to Ukraine in 2008 by George W. Bush. When he gave Ukraine the invitation into NATO, all the rest of the NATO members had pulled him aside and was like, bro, what do you, no, we're not going to accept Ukraine, and we're not going to accept Georgia. Those were the two nations that were given invitations by George W. Bush. It's a very hawkish effort on the Bush administration's part. And Germany and France and other NATO members were like, hell no, that's not happening. And they stood by that. And the only way someone could join NATO is with a unanimous vote, and among other procedural logistics and stuff, but a unanimous vote. And there was never going to be a unanimous vote in Ukraine's favor. There was never going to be a unanimous vote in Georgia's favor.
So, okay, let me ask you, because you obviously know what you're talking about and I don't, and the audience needs to know, what, if there's even an audience, why weren't Ukraine and Georgia qualified to, and why isn't Ukraine qualified today to join NATO?
NATO is a defense pact. NATO is a group of nations who got together and continue to grow, right? That says that they will defend each other and defend themselves collectively if any one of them is threatened. It was initially designed to be a counter to the Warsaw Pact, which was the Soviet Union's defense pact. Why, and there's a long story behind that, lots of Cold War politics. Why Ukraine and Georgia don't qualify? They generally don't offer enough of a defense contribution. To be part of this club, you got to contribute something. And they don't have anything uniquely theirs in terms of industry that's going to give to that defense mission. All the weapons they get from different countries, funny enough, many of whom are NATO countries, right? All the industry they have, the stuff they produce, isn't going to necessarily add to defense capacity. What's going to add to defense capacity is lots of stuff in German industry, for example, lots of stuff that's being produced in France. So right now, and it's not impossible that things can't change in their economies, but right now, adding them to this club is just going to be a net expense for all the other nations. They're going to have to carry the burden. And the reality is these other nations don't want the risk of war with a big power like Russia. And putting, these nations know this very well, especially Germany, making a nation that's in Russia's backyard a NATO member means that the likelihood of Germany and the other NATO members having to go to war with Russia increases significantly. Because even if there's a minor border skirmish between Russia and Ukraine or between Russia and Georgia, That makes it that Article 5 is invoked. Article 5 is the special clause within the NATO agreement that says one of us is touched, all of us will fight. And it's really not worth bringing in nations that are going to bring more baggage than positive at the current moment, and aren't even going to contribute anything uniquely different and uniquely positive and additional to this defense pact, to this defense agreement.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation, because you were saying that, and I'm like, wait, I got to ask him why, because he's saying something that, the audience isn't going to know. I'm not going to know, and it's good that you know all of that.
Think of it this way. You have a group of friends, all right? Let's say you guys are friends because you guys all help each other out in this specific statistics course, right? You guys get together, you're a study group. Say and each one of you guys gives a different perspective that adds to the understanding. Say a dude, and I don't know how this would be the case, but if one of you guys get an F, all of you guys get an F. Let's suppose that's the case, right? Let's go with it for fantasy's sake.
Okay.
And then you guys have this dude come. His name is John, right? And great guy, good guy. There's nothing wrong with him. He's not the brightest tool in the toolbox. He doesn't really get statistics, nor does he offer any unique perspective. He just regurgitates everything he hears. Like, say you tell him some skill about statistics, he just regurgitates it. He doesn't give anything new. You don't want to bring him into this club because he is a high risk of getting an F because he's not the brightest tool in the toolbox.
Gotcha.
You bring him into this club, you risk all of y'all getting an F. And he's not adding anything extra, so all you guys are doing is spoon feeding him your knowledge anyway. You feel like he's a burden more than a net contributor, net positive.
Okay. I love your explanation. It's perfect. You're right. And and no, ladies and gentlemen, war crimes like the Iraq War, where the French didn't want to help us, and we just apparently in 2005 they said, "Oh, they're Liberty fries instead of French fries." That does not count. It's when you are threatened. So let's go ahead and listen to this. So publicly, he knows this ain't happening. Well, he says this happened. Privately, he knows. So there's no point on keeping this going. But okay.
So yeah.
Well,
so
there's
there's
a reason. Sorry to interrupt. There's a reason, and we could get into this debate at another time. But there's a reason the whole NATO coalition subscribed to the war in Afghanistan, but not all NATO members subscribed to the war in Iraq. It was a separate coalition that went into Iraq because in Afghanistan, it was seen as a direct response to an offensive attack on U.S. soil, which was 9/11, right? And so all NATO members were expected to be involved because Article 5 was invoked because we were attacked by someone who was operating out of Afghanistan. Right? And even that was a little gray because it wasn't the Afghan government who attacked us. It wasn't Afghanistan declaring war on the United States. There were just rogue groups who were operating out of Afghanistan, operating on Afghan land,
but it was also
territory.
But it was also Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and there's one more country that was involved, Egypt, right?
So nationals from those countries, a national from Qatar as well.
15. I think
15
one from
Saudis.
Qatar.
Yeah.
Two from
Egypt,
and one and so.
But
so either way,
but either way, those
Lebanon.
were. It was a little gray with that one because there was no particular country that declared war. But the point is, there was.
But Saudi Arabia did at that point.
Saudi Arabia, they were Saudi nationals, and they were Saudi nationals who were very close to the Saudi regime. But Saudi Arabia itself, as a nation, did not declare direct war on us.
But they still attacked us. So we should have gone into Saudi Arabia instead of Afghanistan.
That's hard to argue because Osama bin Laden, the person we wanted, was in Afghanistan, and the reality situation was that there was. I don't think we should have gone into Afghanistan. I'll be very clear, but I don't know that going into Saudi Arabia would have been productive either. I think that.
But it's the country that attacked us the most.
there were people who were higher up in the country's order who attacked us. Yes, that's correct. It wasn't the country itself on official doctrine that attacked us. And neither was it Afghanistan. Afghanistan, the country itself, did not directly attack us. But I think our response to 9/11 was, and we should definitely have this conversation as well, was itself misguided, and we didn't appropriately respond to it. But why I'm saying NATO got involved in the Afghanistan war, where NATO did not get involved in the Iraq war, is there was this feeling that it was a response, maybe not a correct response, but a response to a direct offensive against the United States. So Article 5 could be invoked. And I don't even know if Article 5 specifically was invoked, but I do know all NATO members were involved in the war in Afghanistan, whereas not all NATO members, such as France, and I also believe Germany, did not get involved in the war in Iraq in 2003, because that was an offensive war launched by the United States, the UK, Australia, others, and it was in fact a war crimes that were committed, and the war itself was started on immoral, unethical, and unconstitutional bases. So George W. Bush should have been impeached in the United States for that war.
And Nancy Pelosi could have handled that, but the problem is they went and told her we're torturing people, and Nancy Pelosi didn't. She was the head of the Intelligence Committee at the time, and she was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and she didn't do jack about it. So for her to go in 2007 to then go and impeach the president of the United States, George W. Bush, Bush could turn around and say, you knew about this. Now there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Translator speaking, but you can.
I think back to this whole Ukraine thing. NATO is a defense pact in the way that we all made a whole bunch of defense agreements before World War I that we said we'll never go back to, because that's what got us into World War I. When you all start getting together as a group and somehow mutually promise each other, one of you get hurt, all of us are going to fight. It's just increasing the risk, especially with NATO. What is NATO? 30 countries? Yeah. I mean, all it takes is for Iran to somehow get into a border skirmish with Turkey, right? And Turkey is a NATO member. All of a sudden, we have a war with Iran. Don't give the war hawks in the United States any ideas, by the way, please.
John Bolton, Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken, Joe Biden, Obama.
We just passed out an idea of how we could get into war with Iran. Somehow do a false flag operation in Turkey, and then boom, Article 5.
Mission accomplished. Remember?
The axis of evil.
The axis of evil has been defeated. Like, dude, what the fuck?
So this is why we gotta avoid these types of defense pacts. We gotta stop doing them, because they keep on getting us into problems like they did in World War I and like they're doing right now.
Well, exactly. But I think there's a bit of a gray area there too, because I don't think all NATO countries were for it. But there's an argument that after 1990, really, we didn't need NATO after the collapse of the Soviet Union, because it was made to protect against the Soviet Union.
Protect against the Soviet Union. It was supposed to be a counterbalance. So part of the agreement with Mikhail Gorbachev and James Baker being the
Secretary of State
and the leader in all these negotiations with the Soviet Union under George H.W. Bush in dissolving the Soviet Union was, okay, fine, the United States and NATO, we're not going to dissolve ourselves, because if we do that, we're saying that ultimately the Soviets got their way, right? They dissolved Warsaw, we dissolved NATO. But at the same time, we also gave verbal consent or verbal assurances to Mikhail Gorbachev that we will not expand NATO. True, they were not written assurances, but we're not going to expand beyond East Germany. So East and West Germany will unite and become Germany proper, and then NATO will not expand. All of a sudden, Poland found its way into NATO, Slovakia, Czech Republic, the Baltic states. All these other countries just started finding their way into NATO, and it hit a fever point. It hit a crescendo in 2008 when George W. Bush just went haywire and ham and just said, well, we should add Ukraine and Georgia. Let's put out invitations. And all the other NATO states said, are you freaking out of your mind, bro? Ukraine and NATO
George
aren't going to
Bush
add or
just
subtract
went on a
anything.
haywire and expanded way the hell because Clinton kind of supported it, but he also went just a little bit. Bush,
I think Clinton just added Poland and Hungary. Correct? I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But Bush just went and added the rest of the nations that are there today, and Obama did too, because it went promised for subsequent administrations, Clinton and Bush. But the problem is Bush just went crazy in 2004, 2005, 2006. Just went 05 and
started signing a whole bunch of NATO invitations.
Exactly, and they were accepted, and we broke that promise. So
we bullied our fellow NATO colleagues into voting unanimous votes to allow these countries, and eventually they said enough is enough when we invited Ukraine and Georgia.
And then there's the video of George W. Bush in 2008 at I think it was the NATO conference in Munich or something like that. German Chancellor Merkel was there, and nobody's talking to Bush at the end of his 8 years, 2008. They're like, no, fuck you. We don't have to deal with you anymore. You can't bully me anymore. You're leaving office. And he looks like that kid that's alone at lunch because nobody likes him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how they all felt about him.
I kind of miss German Chancellor Merkel.
I'll be very honest with you. Merkel was very strategic. I do think Olaf Scholz is proving his capacity and how he's handling this situation in Ukraine and Russia, and he's proving to be one of the bigger heads in the room, at least on the Western Front. And I really do feel like he is the appropriate successor to Angela Merkel.
Okay, here, so I don't know. I'm just I've grown up with her as chancellor, so we both.
Oh yeah, she's been around for a long time. She was around for George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, and Donald Trump. And I'll tell you a little secret. About Donald Trump. He talked a big game, right, about diminishing NATO significance. But under his administration, NATO's capacities and powers were expanded, and he always talked about pulling support from NATO, but financial support was not pulled from NATO. So he was good at talking.
They came to his face. Remember, he's like, "I said it was obsolete. No, I know it's not obsolete." And they were like, "Oh, NATO!" The head of guy of NATO who came to the United States in 2017, because Trump, when he put,
You mean Jan Stoltenberg, or was he the head at the time? I know Jan Stoltenberg is the head now.
I'm pretty sure he was. He talked like, "We're NATO."
That's him.
Yeah. Please don't cancel me. I'm serious. Do not cancel me, people. But once he was face to face with NATO, he was like, Trump was a little bitch. But okay, so this translator is going to tell you what Zelensky said. Zelensky knew publicly. Let's see.
Requested them personally to say directly that we are going to accept you into NATO in a year or 2 or 5.
Okay, so
just say.
So he's saying, all right, we're gonna accept you in a year or 2 or 5. We want to be in NATO, and they said something to him. I wonder what they said to Vladimir Zelensky of whether he could join NATO. What did they say?
Directly and clearly, or just say no. And the response was very clear. You're not going to be a NATO or EU member, but publicly, the doors will remain open.
Publicly, the doors will remain open. So in private, the answer is definitely no, right? But in public, the doors will remain open. So you know what that is? Have you ever had, like, when you were a kid, you go to a club, right? It's a group of friends, right? You're all hanging out, all the cool kids. There's one kid who's like, "Hey, I want to join your club. Y'all seem so cool." Publicly, y'all, let's think about it. We'll get back to you. Y'all go back to your friend group and you're like, "I can't really stand this person. Of course we're not going to accept them into our club. We want our own club, but we'll show them face because we need them. Yeah. We need it for propaganda reasons, or these kids are like, well, we can't shun this kid because then we'll look like the bullies. So we're going to say we're thinking about it. But of course our answer is no. That's basically what NATO did to Ukraine.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we keep on threatening Russia. We keep on baiting Russia.
Yeah.
But in private, hell no, we don't want you. You're just going to be a burden. You're going to be an extra.
And so why would they keep the door? So NATO said, no, we're not going to allow Ukraine into NATO. Zelensky seemed to want that. He says the people of Ukraine want that. NATO said, you're not going to get that, but we will publicly pretend that the door is open. Why would NATO want to pretend that publicly the door is open for Ukraine to enter NATO? Aaron?
Yeah, this is important.
Well, for one, especially the U.S., the people who run the U.S. are such fanatic Russophobes, Russia haters, that they don't want to give Russia any kind of win, even if it's just a completely symbolic one, like Ukraine not joining NATO, which they apparently agree with anyway. And the more sinister explanation, which I also think is true, is that they wanted to use NATO membership to bait Russia into invading, to use Ukrainians as cannon fodder to bait Russia into a war. And by the way, this is a policy that was set out in a 2019 RAND study. I read about it in my newest article at matcha.substack.com, where this RAND study, a Pentagon-tied think tank, talks about the best ways to overextend Russia. That's the topic of the study. And the top strategy that they come up with is providing more weapons to Ukraine in order to basically compel a Russian invasion. And that would be a way to bleed Russia. So that is what I believe the strategy was. And that's why they wanted to use Zelensky in Ukraine to leave the door open. Basically, leave the door open to NATO publicly, to leave the door open to a disastrous Russian invasion of Ukraine. And Zelensky went along with it.
I will say one thing, though. And this is all very true. I appreciate.
Respond to Mate.
Yeah, I appreciate highlighting that. But that also proves the case that Russia kind of walked into the American warhawk trap. In that, we wanted to bait them. But the best way for them to get back at us and deprive us of a whole bunch of defense contracts and the Rand Corporation from cashing out, because Rand is, like he said, basically a mouthpiece, an extension of the Pentagon and the Department of Defense. The best way to have gotten back at us, like, you want war? Oh, you're not getting war from Russia. I'll tell you that much. You know what I mean? And make it so that the American defense contractors aren't going to benefit. But here's the dirty little secret. The number 2 nation for defense contracts and defense profiteering after the United States is Russia. So their defense contractors are making a whole bunch of money too.
Oh,
so I think
they're making a bitch load of money, just a boatload.
The secret is it all goes back to the money. Follow the trail, follow the paper trail. And unfortunately, the Ukrainian people are being used as cannon fodder for a dick measuring competition, basically, between the West and Russia. But yeah, no, honestly, to the substance of what Aaron is saying, realpolitik. That's literally what the situation is. And unfortunately, if Zelensky was a true leader and a true I'll sound like a misogynist by saying this, but if he were a true man, right? Mm-hmm. He would stand up to NATO and be like, no, you're going to come out publicly and you're going to say yes or no, and you're going to own up to whether we're joining you or not, because I'm not going to let my people be cannon fodder for this dick measuring competition between you and Russia. You guys get up off your asses and say, no, you guys aren't joining NATO, or yes, you are, in front of and to the face of Russia. So if Russia decides to invade, they have no excuse to do so, because you guys said you're not going to let us join NATO. So I think he should have used his power, and he should have forced NATO to come out publicly with the truth that no, in fact, Ukraine will not be joining NATO, and NATO publicly acknowledges that, forcing Russia not to embark on this military adventurism.
But see, the Zelensky is admitting it publicly now. So now this
but it's
puts
too little,
NATO
too late.
in a very difficult position, because now he's saying, well, NATO told me this. Now NATO has to come out and say no or yes.
Yeah, but see, he had this intelligence. These conversations happened behind closed doors. These conversations happened behind closed doors. He had this intelligence at latest February 19th when Olaf Scholz spoke to him. And he probably had this intelligence before. So I think he should have gathered his marbles, gathered his balls, and should have come up and say, no, NATO, I'm going to force your hand to say publicly yes or no. But now he did put NATO in a difficult position, but unfortunately, I do believe it's too little too late. I think that there are many Ukrainian people and many Russian people dying and suffering other consequences as a result of this dick measuring contest.
Exactly. And I mean, yeah. All right, let's continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why would he reject just days before the invasion a measure that would essentially enshrine what he was told anyway, which is that Ukraine is not going to join NATO? Again, that proposal you read out from Germany was Ukraine just commit to neutrality and not joining NATO. But why would he reject something that was already reality anyway, according to what he says he was told? Well, for a few things. One, he's sold out to the U.S., and also because
he's a puppet. All right.
And this is where I have some sympathy for him, where it is true that if he did agree to make peace with Russia and basically accept neutrality, he would face a coup. The far right in Ukraine have threatened him with a coup and even threatened to kill him. There are far right leaders who have literally threatened Zelensky's life if he makes peace with Russia, including accepting neutrality. So this is where Zelensky, the most generous interpretation you can make is that he was scared for his life. And he knew that if he actually reached an accommodation with Russia along these lines, he would pay the price. Now, where the U.S. has a major responsibility here.
Now, before I let this go on, he's going to tell you exactly where his loophole was, where Zelensky's loophole was, what loophole he had to use, how he could have gotten himself out of that jam with the right-wing hawks in Ukraine, the hawkish right-wingers who said, hey, we'll threaten you, we'll do a coup, you better be careful, we'll kill you. There's one force that could have helped. I wonder who.
Is that if the U.S. had stepped in and said, we have Zelensky's back. So if he makes peace with Russia, if he accepts neutrality for Ukraine, and if he also ends the war in the Donbass, which he had refused to do, despite being elected on a campaign of peace. Recall that the war in Ukraine didn't start when Putin invaded. It began in 2014 when the U.S. backed a coup.
Yes.
And that coup government essentially launched an assault on Ukraine's ethnic Russian population who took
Yes.
up arms with Russia's support. And that led to this brutal 8-year-long war in which over 13,000 people died. Zelensky was elected on a mandate to make peace with the rebels in the Donbass, to implement the Minsk Accords. What happened, though, he was immediately threatened. The far right held rallies, threatening to kill him. And so the only force that could have saved him and actually pushed through peace would be the U.S., because the U.S. after the coup has major leverage inside Ukraine. That's just obvious. Look no further than the fact that Hunter Biden got a Burisma board seat to speak to how influential the U.S. is, especially Joe Biden. And so Joe Biden, after coming in, could have said he has Zelensky's back on neutrality, and he could have Zelensky's back on implementing the Minsk Accords and ending the Donbass war. Instead, he encouraged Zelensky to crack down on his opposition. That's why in early 2021, right after Biden took office, Zelensky banned 3 major opposition television networks. Soon after that, he went after the main opposition leader inside Ukraine, who was tied to Russia. And meanwhile, the U.S. and Ukraine, under Biden and Zelensky, signed all these agreements, basically deepening U.S.-Ukrainian military integration and enshrining NATO membership as a goal. So that's what the U.S. did. At every step of the way, the U.S. encouraged Zelensky to not make peace with Russia. And Biden effectively took the side of Ukraine's neo-Nazis, not the Ukrainian people who had elected Zelensky on an overwhelming mandate to make peace.
So if Ukraine...
Yeah, and that goes back to the point that I had referred earlier. Biden really was the one who had the sway before this war happened in saying, we will give Ukraine security assurances if Ukraine declares its neutrality. We will not accept Ukraine into NATO because they do not qualify for NATO membership, but we will provide them security assurances in cooperation with Russia, giving assurances that they will not invade or touch Ukraine, with Ukraine remaining neutral. So yeah, the Biden administration were the ones who had the most leverage.
They could have saved his life.
Yeah, they would have saved his life.
You think
and
the
they would have
right
saved the
wing?
lives of the Ukrainians.
Yeah, well, exactly. But you think the right wing saved the lives of Ukrainians? But you think the right wing hawks are gonna? I don't care. F you, Biden. Hell no. Because now the United States is gonna go in and say, I said I support neutrality, and we told Zelensky to do it. Touch Zelensky, I touch you. I don't think the right wingers would mess with Zelensky after that.
Yeah, that would have been the clearest solution, and that would
Instead,
have
he sides
also
with this
ensured that would have
military.
ensured the most peace in the area.
Yeah, and instead he sides with the neo-Nazis. Meanwhile, the Democrats keep complaining about, oh, Nazis, Trump's a Nazi. And yet the Ukrainian military officially adopts a Nazi logo, a logo of the Nazis, the neo-Nazis. It's got Nazis in its military, and people like Adam go, oh, but it's a minority. It's not that much. Well, it's a minority of Republicans. Well, I don't think so, but let's just put it that way. It's a minority of Republicans. Oh, but it doesn't matter. They're Republicans. It's the complete hypocrisy. So now Joe Biden is joining this neo-Nazi military, creating this war, all for war profits and oil. That's all it is.
Yeah, goes back to the
Receives
money.
nuclear weapons.
So now this is a advisor for Vladimir Zelensky in 2019, and he's going to tell you exactly what Ukraine wants. And Jimmy Dore is going to be reading the translation.
From NATO, what will that do? And he says,
So if there's nuclear weapons, what's going to happen?
in this case, we can speak about some dates of termination of war in the East. No, we don't speak about any dates of termination of war, he says. Quite the opposite. It will most likely prompt Russia to launch a large-scale military operation against Ukraine. Yeah. Because they'll have to degrade us. So if they get weapons from NATO, he's saying in 2019, it'll probably prompt Russia to invade them because they'll have to degrade us in terms of infrastructure and to turn everything here into a devastated territory. So they'll have to degrade them in terms of infrastructure, okay, so that the NATO would be reluctant in accepting us. And then she says, you mean that Russia will dare to directly confront NATO? He said, of course, Russia. No, not NATO. They must do this before we join NATO, meaning Russia has to invade Ukraine before Ukraine joins NATO to make us not interesting for NATO.
What was that?
It's a now or never type argument. Peter Zihan also makes this argument.
So that we become uninteresting as a havoc territory. So if Russia destroys Ukraine, NATO won't want to bring Ukraine into NATO, like we said. So now he says, with the probability of 99.9%, our price for joining NATO is a big war with Russia. And if we do not join NATO, its absorption by
a big war with Russia. That's it. It's a big war with Russia. Wow.
Well, they got that big war with Russia.
They got that big war with Russia.
Russia within 10 to 12 years. So he's saying that if our two options are we either go have a full-out war with Russia or Russia's going to absorb us into they're behind their red curtain that doesn't exist.
Yeah. This vestiges of the
Here's
Cold
the
War
fork.
type thought
Here's the
process.
fork.
Right, exactly. They're already spreading propaganda privately, but to the state media, yeah. I mean, we need. There's a choice we got to make. There's no way Russia is gonna absorb Ukraine, but he's saying that to get his ducks in a row and get his balls and marbles in it.
We're facing now. That's the challenge. And now let's make a choice. But wait, if we put it on the scales, what better is the case? What's better in this case? Of course, large-scale war with Russia and joining NATO as a result of the defeat of Russia. That's the coolest thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's the coolest thing.
So ultimately, things don't get better till they get worse. Is this person's argument, right?
Exactly.
Like, let's go ahead and
know.
go to war with Russia. Somehow, miraculously, a win over a superior military, right? A militarily superior force, right? Win over them somehow miraculously. And then as a celebration, we get a little treat by joining NATO. After all our capacity and infrastructure in Ukraine has been hollowed out by that superior military of Russia. Yeah, I don't know what kind of sideways argument that is, but some people make
he
that
argued
argument.
that they're not going to want us if our military's gone and if our infrastructure is decimated, we're too much baggage. Oh, but we still want to join NATO, so we should definitely let Russia invade us. But we're going to become victorious. His argument is going back and forth.
Yeah, it's inconsistent.
But okay, right. But he says we're going to be absorbed into Russia. So here's what Aramate says.
No evidence for that. It is true that Russia took Crimea in 2014, but the reason they did that was obvious, and everybody across the Russian political spectrum supported it. You had a coup in 2014 backed by the US. The coup government was immediately talking about joining NATO. And so you had the prospect for Russia of its most important naval base in Crimea, where the majority of the population speaks Russian and identifies with Russia, falling into NATO. And so Russia acted quickly and absorbed it. And by the way, this was happening in parallel with the war in the Donbass beginning and the coup government essentially declaring an assault on the Russian-speaking population. But Russia didn't go beyond that. And even when the breakaway republics of the
So they were trying to get other countries to go into NATO, including Crimea, and Vladimir Putin saw that and said, hell no.
Donbass, Donetsk and Luhansk wanted to become independent, wanted to essentially join Russia. Putin refused to recognize them as independent. Russia was advocating for the Minsk Accords, which I talked about earlier, this agreement under which these Donbass regions would stay inside Ukraine's borders, but get some limited autonomy. And that would be and in return for that, they would be demilitarized.
Now, if you're wondering, folks, ladies and gentlemen, okay, well, why now is Putin creating the space to declare them as independent states? Because they violated the Minsk agreement. That's why.
Would end the Donbass war. It was Russia that was advocating for that to be implemented. So Russia was advocating for a peace deal that respected Ukraine's borders, with the exception of Crimea, which they took, and again, which, according to all polls, the majority of the population in Crimea supported Russia taking it, and even Alexei Navalny inside Russia supported that move as well, just because Crimea was seen as so integral to Russia's security. And so this notion that he has that if we don't join NATO, then Russia's going to take us over in 10, 12 years, there's no evidence for that. And in fact, look, if you go back to the coup of 2014, the problem there was the US and the EU insisting that Ukraine make a choice between, it was either Russia or the West, because the EU was trying to force Ukraine to sign this economic deal that would have essentially cut off Ukraine's ties to Russia and also accept really, really harsh austerity. And for Ukraine, that was just suicidal, especially when you have a large segment of the population in Ukraine, although it's declined because people have left and because of the war. A large segment of the population speaks Russian, identifies with Russia, and wants to maintain ties to Russia. And that's why it's suicidal in that situation to force Ukraine into one camp or the other. It would be crazy for Russia to try to force Ukraine into its own camp at the exclusion of all those who don't want to be a part of or want to be tied with Russia. But it's also just as crazy, which has been the US-led policy, to try to force Ukraine into the US-led camp, essentially into NATO and the EU. And the answer in a divided country is to respect that division and keep the country neutral, because otherwise you're always going to have conflicts brewing up. And by the way, that's exactly what William Burns, the current ambassador to the CIA, predicted back when he was Russia's ambassador to the US. He wrote that famous memo that we know about thanks to WikiLeaks, warning that across the Russian spectrum, he was being told that NATO was a red line, that NATO membership for Ukraine was a red line for Russia because it would force Russia one day to intervene if there was going to be an internal civil conflict, which is exactly what has happened.
So what I'm seeing here is the the EU, the European Union is saying, come with us. We'll give you harsh austerity and we'll whatever he said, but you'll also sever your ties with Russia. You'll become financially dependent on us. Russia is saying, well, we know we could get you into our quarters, but we don't want you to do that because I know you don't. We could, even though you do have people who do speak our language and identify with us and want to maintain ties with us and be cool with us, you have people in Ukraine that don't want to be cool with us. So then the U.S., which is our policy thanks to Joe Biden and Obama and Trump, is, but really Joe Biden now, come and join us instead. Even right. So Aaron is saying, look, the best thing to do here, and the guy he mentioned, I forgot what his name was in that CIA memo, is
William Burns. William
Burns,
director of the CIA. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he used to be there, and then he was the U.S. ambassador, Russia's ambassador to the U.S. or whatever. He is saying you need to leave it alone. They are divided. You're not going to make anyone happy by making them go to the west with Europe, west with the United States, or to Russia's territory, into Russia's camp. You have to leave it alone. So, what is your take on what Monte said there?
Well, that's pretty clear. That's pretty clear policy with where Ukraine is. That's pretty clear policy with where Georgia is. That's pretty clear policy with where many of these other nations in the Caucasus, Central Asia, and Far East Europe bordering Russia. I think the issue is this was all well and good until, we started to poke the bear and go against the Minsk agreement and poke the bear of Russia. But I do still maintain, as I was saying earlier in your stream, it's going to also backfire horribly on Russia, in that Russia kind of walked into that trap now by ultimately trying to force Ukraine into their own camp since this invasion that started on February 24th, because the Ukrainian sympathy for Russia, which was there due to cultural ties, which was there due to geographic and demographic ties, is now significantly reduced. And Ukraine will, in some ways, blindly run into the Western camp. An ideal Ukraine would have been a Ukraine that's neutral, that would have gotten Western investment, Western capital, but would have also maintained the cultural cultivations with Russia. That would have been a most successful scenario, and that's not the scenario that seems to be coming about. It's not impossible for us to go back in that direction. I just don't know that the traumas of war are going to make it easy for us to go back in that direction. And now you're starting to see scary things like Finland and Sweden, which are much more capable of successfully joining NATO given their military and economic capacities. Talking about wanting to join NATO. And if Finland joins NATO, Finland is also a border state to Russia. But the difference between Finland and Ukraine is Finland has much lower corruption. Finland has much stronger, much stronger of an industrial base. Finland has much closer ties to the West. And the same applies to Sweden. And if those two states do succeed in entering NATO, which it's seeming more and more likely, that's going to be another threat on Russia's backyard. So ultimately, this is backfiring horribly for Russia in some ways, in that Ukrainian sympathy for Russia is decreasing, which is causing Ukrainians to run into the arms of the West. And other Russian border states that otherwise chose to remain neutral for their own good are now leaning towards joining NATO, such as Sweden and Finland. Ukraine's probably never going to join NATO, or not anytime soon. That's just the reality of the situation. But there's nothing stopping Ukraine from joining the EU, which is the economic body, the economic arm of the European continent. And if Ukraine runs into the economic arms of Western Europe, ultimately, eventually, there will be more capital flows, and then they'll try to build their own industrial base and military base, and way out in the future, join the military arm of the European continent. So I think while the lack of enforcement for the Minsk agreements rightfully pissed off Russia, the decision to enter Ukraine in an invasion type style, or as Russia describes it, special military operation, backfired horribly on Russia. And that's not even to talk about the many Russian losses and deaths and military setbacks that they experienced over the past month and a half.
So it seems to me the way to go is just keep Ukraine neutral and Russia just to count its losses and go, all right, look, we're just going to back out of here.
That's going to be the most efficient. That's going to be the quickest way. Is that what's ultimately going to happen?
I don't know.
The longer this takes, the less likely that will happen. Because what happens, and just studying the human condition and psychology, is the people of Ukraine are going to move more and more to the right. And they're not going to be willing to settle for neutrality. They're going to feel hey, we were just militarily attacked. How are you going to convince us to be neutral at this point? And I think in Vladimir Putin's case, the president himself claiming that he faced losses and going back to Moscow and bringing his troops home, it's going to be very difficult because he never framed this as a war to his people. He only framed this as special military operations. Military operations are supposed to be clean and quick. So it's going to be hard for him to save face. And all these sanctions we levied, we made the situation even much more murkier. All these sanctions we levied is not allowing Putin a proper off-ramp. We need to figure out a diplomatic off-ramp in addition to what you proposed, which was neutrality and a full Russian withdrawal. And I think the United States hasn't done enough to promote that. Ryan Grimm did ask I think
Ryan Grimm.
Yeah,
defending the Pentagon, defending the squad, doing their marketing for them and making excuses for their dumbasses. Nah, Ryan Grimm. No. I don't care what Ryan Grimm's got to say.
He did ask the question that no one else in the White House press corps was willing to ask. And it's a legitimate question that the United States does not have an answer to. What efforts have the United States taken to promote an environment of peacemaking or negotiating between Ukraine and Russia? What is the United States doing to promote the ability for peace? What is the United States doing to support Ukraine in seeking a peaceful off-ramp with Russia? Because every other member of the White House press corps and every other person who's gotten access to Jen Psaki, Joe Biden, or anyone else in the White House has only asked, why aren't we doing enough? Or how can we go harder on Russia? Or should we levy more sanctions? Or are there plans to try Russia in the International Criminal Court? Or how do we get back at Russia? Yeah. But all these hawkish questions, the point is they're hawkish questions. I mean,
you wouldn't be in the White House press corps if you were to ask, so how can we make sure that we just neutralize Ukraine, that we end this peacefully, and that Russia just goes home?
The United States doesn't have an answer to that. Yeah, the United States doesn't have an answer to that. How do we make an environment conducive to peace? But I don't, there's definitely lots of disagreements I have with Ryan Grimm, but asking that question, I think, was an important question to be heard, and we haven't got an answer to that quite yet.
We never
the United States.
We're not going to get that. So my stance is neutrality. I have another guy who agrees. This is Douglas MacArthur, Colonel. I got to get this right. Okay. Colonel Douglas MacArthur. He's been, I forgot what Aaron Mate said. He was in the first Gulf War doing military operations. Then he was a leader in NATO for some kind of arms pact or whatever. And then arms leadership and then he was under leadership of Trump, serving as ambassador to Russia or something. So let's hear what he's got to say, because I think he agrees with me.
Question is, what is it that Zelensky is going to do? The Russians have made it very clear what they want is a neutral Ukraine. This could have ended days ago if he accepted that. And then they can adjust the borders. But the eastern part of Ukraine is firmly in Russian hands. But again, the Russians are not seizing territory. They're destroying Ukrainian forces. That's their focus.
Colonel, it sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
And by the way, this is a propagandist British person serving up propaganda for the Western media. And watch how Douglas MacArthur
That's Stuart Varney, right, from Fox Business.
Yeah.
Ugh, I can't stand that guy. But anyway, go ahead.
Either. You fucking just loony laughed.
And I hate the way he asks his questions. He does the same with I forget who it was who came to talk about China the other day. He asks in such a way. Colonel, it sounds like you don't support Zelensky's stand. Go ahead.
No.
Let's go ahead and review. Let's hear Stuart ask that question. He's hilarious.
You want to hear it again?
Yeah, I want to hear it again.
Let me see if hold on a second.
Colonel, it sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
Hold on, let's play. Hold on.
Love that cartoonish voice.
Sounds like you don't approve of this stand. Sounds like.
In Russian hands. But again, the Russians are not seizing territory. They're destroying Ukrainian forces. That's their focus.
Hold on.
Colonel, it sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
It sounds like
and he does that with all his questions. Like if you listen to any Stuart Varney interview, he brings on all kinds of Republican senators, fossil fuel executives. He loves eating out a whole bunch of corporatist asshole. But anyway, all his questions are like
describing something.
Yeah, even when they're softball questions, even when he's not trying to be like combative with the person he's interviewing, he asks his questions like that. It's so cartoonish. It sounds like Peppa Pig.
It sounds like Dora and Peppa Pig wants another pig.
Exactly.
Sounds like Peppa Pig wants an oink oink. Oh my god, my lord! I never saw that coming. Peppa Pig. It sounds like you want another pig.
Even BBC doesn't talk like that. Even BBC does not talk like that.
He's serving a propaganda. That's what he's doing. That's what they do. But it sounds like your balls are going blue.
It sounds like someone's grabbing his balls and tugging.
Because if they weren't tugging, so Tim, it really sounds like you don't really support him. But it sounds like you don't support his stand. Ow, my balls! Stop it! Stop it, Hannity! Stop it, please.
I want to hear Hannity ask a question like that.
Well, I don't even know how to do Hannity's impression.
He has a weird voice. Him and Tucker Carlson both have a weird way of talking.
I can hear Tucker Carlson's voice in my head.
So you know how Sagar and Jetty was one of Tucker Carlson's mentees way back when? I could kind of tell that because Sagar's monologue style and his style of tone and just talking is very similar to Tucker's.
Kind of, but it is very different.
It's different, but I mean, it sounds like a smarter Tucker. Does that make any sense? A smarter Tucker
Carlson. Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Although I don't like that they talk about China in the wrong way and they smeared Robert Malone, Crystal Ball. I used to love Crystal Ball. Now it's just, but let's see what Colonel said. It sounds like here. Hold on, let me play the question. Hold on.
Focus,
Colonel. It sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
Tell me what you really think. Because to me, this is what it seems like. Now, correct my blue bows.
Please pass me a crumpet and a spot of tea.
A spot of tea? It sounds like this guy's going bonkers. Hannity, stop pulling on my balls. This is serious business here. Okay.
I think Zelensky is a puppet. And he is putting huge numbers of his own population at unnecessary risk.
Yep.
And quite frankly, most of what comes out of Ukraine is debunked as lies within 24 to 48 hours.
Yep.
The notions of taking and retaking airfields, all of this is nonsense. It hasn't happened.
He's not a hero? I mean, he's standing up for himself and his own people. You don't think he's a hero?
Hannity, I'm saying hero because I'm trying to say ouch.
No, I do not. I don't see anything heroic about the man. And I think the most heroic thing that he can do right now is to come to terms with reality. Neutralize Ukraine. This is not a bad thing. A neutral Ukraine would be good for us as well as for Russia. It would create the buffer that, frankly, both sides want. But he's, I think, being told to hang on and try to drag this out, which is tragic for the people that have to live through this.
I'm inclined to disagree.
I'm inclined to disagree with you because I want to be a war hawk and figure out how to cause World War III.
Just like Hannity's causing World War III on my bows. Sorry. Anyway, he's under the desk. I mean, you're inclined to disagree there's no actual reason that you actually disagree.
You just disagree because
it's not Douglas MacArthur.
Defense propagandists paid you to disagree.
Exactly. By the way, Douglas MacArthur, I made a mistake. It's Douglas McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, General MacArthur's back?
He came back from the dead.
Came back from the... I'm Douglas MacArthur. It's Douglas McGregor, and McGregor just beat his ass.
Yeah.
There's
right
a reason why we
TV.
should, and he put it perfectly why we should neutralize Ukraine there.
Because we need a neutral Ukraine, because we need a buffer for our own safety.
Exactly. And it works for everybody, including Russia.
And it works for the Ukrainians because they don't have to be forced to pick a side. They get to do business with Russia and they get to do business with us, and no one could tell them which way to go.
Exactly. No one can tell us where. It's kind of like, you know who it reminds me of? It reminds me of the president of the guy who's like a puppet who could be friends with Russia and the West.
Finland used to be that way, but now they want to run into NATO's hands.
But it was
Israel.
No. Remember the president who was trashing Western media because of what they're doing to
Azerbaijan, Haidar Aliyev.
Yeah. Who's the what's the country?
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that, where he's like, if he does something against Russia, the West will protect him. If he does something against the West, Russia will protect him.
And that is why he was able to win the war between himself and Armenia, because he ultimately had Russia, because Russia supports Armenia, but Russia ultimately did not get involved because they have good faith with him. And the West supported him, but he ultimately knew not to bring in the West to not cause direct confrontation with Russia. And so he was able to really strike that balance very well and win that war against Armenia. So he knew how to play both powers against each other.
And he can still do it to this day. And we're not saying he's a great president at all. He's a dictator, but...
No. Yeah, I'm not praising him.
Yeah. So Douglas McGregor, not MacArthur, but Douglas McGregor put it correctly here. And by the way, the media lied about, Russians are going in and shooting people with their hands tied behind their back. And yet Russian troops left on April 30th, 31st, March 30th. Wait, where's April 30th? We haven't even gotten there. March 30th, they leave. The Russian troops leave Bucha. And then after they leave Bucha, the mayor says, all right, we've been liberated from Russian hands and we're now okay.
All of a sudden, 24 hours
the
later,
neo-Nazis come
bodies
in.
start
The Azov
appearing.
Battalion comes in and starts shooting people.
Yeah,
so and the Washington Post
that weren't there in the beginning.
Exactly. The Washington Post puts it as fact. They're posting it as fact. Where's the disinformation there? Why aren't they being censored? Why aren't their Twitters being deleted?
Well, and Margaret Brennan, I believe is her name. She's the one who's on one of them Sunday morning shows. What is it called? Face the Nation or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, Margaret Brennan. She goes ahead and she had, I don't know if it was Zelensky. She had someone on her program and she was asking him, someone from the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian representative. And she was asking them, hey, we see these photos come from the Ukrainian government. She doesn't add anything about we did not independently verify them or we did not independently confirm. She just takes what the Ukrainian government offers her at face value without any critical thinking or critical analysis and says, hey, these photos are horrible. And then she proceeds to ask whatever question she wanted to ask. But, you typically as a news journalist and as a news agency have to say, our news agency, whether it's the BBC or CNN, independently verified or we could not independently verify. She didn't mention any of those details. And you know this from Journalism 101. You got to verify your sources. You got to verify the images or resources provided to you, the evidence provided to you. You got to make sure it's authentic.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we learn as journalism students. I'm a journalism minor, and that's what we learn. And I mean, the media keeps lying to you, and you. I mean, this is the reason why people don't watch CNN and MSN. Adam says, "Oh yeah, but they're the most trusted people ever," and And when I tell them all the shit, they were not okay with Republican wars. Oh, so Democratic wars are okay. So that's why people don't like these people.
Hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy, but also their lies. They publish without even fixing it.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Correct the record, friends. Be honest about what sources you have and what sources you've verified.
That's exactly right. We are at 3 hours and 15 minutes.
It's quite a pleasure chatting about this. I know there's more we want to definitely chat about. We want to definitely explore. where the Middle East is falling in all this, where China and India are falling in all this. What this means to Asia Pacific. We could do a whole Ukraine topic. We were about to get into a debate that I do think is very productive. We should do our own segment on this one of these days. Our response to 9/11. And was the war in Afghanistan the right response? Should we have pursued a war against Saudi Arabia? Should we have pursued no war at all? What would have been the right response? I think we had some disagreements, and I'd like to cultivate them, hash them out, figure out what they are, and find where we do agree. I think we agree on a lot. I think we agree that the war in Afghanistan ultimately was a failure, but was it the best response available to us at the time as a result of 9/11 and how to directly respond to the attack on U.S. soil? So I would like to have that debate. I really do think we should do that.
I think we should definitely have someone else come too. We need like a third, someone who knows foreign policy really well and American policy. So if you can find that person,
I will do some digging.
Yep. And also I want to discuss Saudi Arabia and the petrodollar.
Yes.
That would be a fun. We got videos coming out, folks. Wait, hold on.
Saudi Arabia is looking at buying oil or selling oil to China and accepting Chinese currency as a result, which is a direct middle finger to the United States.
But do they want to do that when United States has got a lot? I mean, they attacked us with the Sunnis. They funded the Sunnis who attacked us in Iraq.
Yeah.
And then this is what I said to them. Aaron. It's your dreams. I think Biden is sleeping.
Let's take his signature and make an executive order.
Let's cancel all student debt right now.
And in the process, end all the offensive illegal wars that are going on right now under United States direction.
And then let's also free non-violent drug offenders and expunge their records.
And let's drop the charges against Julian Assange and free Edward Snowden with a pardon.
And let's pardon Daniel Hale.
And Reality Winner.
And let's what else could we do? Medicare for all for everybody.
Yes, there's a loophole where the president can do that.
Section 1881A.
Exactly. And let's make sure that we start processing backlogs of asylum seekers. The president can also do that.
Let's do that.
This dude is still knocked out.
He is knocked out.
He is knocked out. But I wonder if he's even hearing us in his dreams.
Probably. And he's probably responding in his dreams, but then out loud. I want to pull that part of the live stream as a behind the scenes thing.
That'd be hilarious. Are you gonna clip a lot of this up to make the also separate segments? Like, I mean, you have it as a live stream, but you could also throw them up as individual videos. Yeah. Hashtag.
Yeah, I'm gonna split up the Ukraine segment for
war
sure.
Criminal in Chief. Let's dig into that one.
Oh yeah, maybe I should get some videos of all the bombs we've thrown and all the news clips. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our very first live video of 2022, but also since January of 2021.
There's gonna be lots of good stuff coming out on your channel.
Oh yeah, be careful, be aware. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Press the post notification bell so you never miss another one of these live streams or videos, because there's a lot coming out. Okay, there's a lot of crap coming out on these videos. So, Naeem, I'd like to thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. If I could take a second, for those who are very interested in learning about foreign policy, you see lots of journals out there that are sponsored by think tanks and defense contract groups and stuff like that, such as the Foreign Policy Journal.
Oh,
and
and
you're
also
going to get a
they're by government by different Middle Eastern states. They're sponsored.
yeah, by the UAE, by Qatar, by Saudi. So you're going to get lots of propaganda, lots of war hawks in there. But you could find some people who are very level-headed in terms of foreign policy. Most of these people are independent thinkers. You just got to look for them. I'll give you guys a start on YouTube. Check out Robert Morris from the More Freedom Foundation. On YouTube, it shows up as Mo Freedom Foundation, and he offers a lot of good foreign policy insight. I don't agree with him on everything, but I do agree with his principled stance. He has a principled stance of deterrence and peacemaking, and I think that we just need more people who are level-headed in that regard. That doesn't mean being a pacifist. That means looking out at what the best interest of the world is, and really the best interest is through cultivating conducive peace. Not peace where countries are being taken advantage of, but peace where countries could maintain long-term prosperity and harmonious relationships with each other and within their borders as well. So check out the Mo Freedom Foundation, and always be aware and always be willing to read foreign policy thoughts and perspectives. Always be skeptical, though, of where the funding comes from when you have this or that scholar with 1,001 credentials.
Definitely do your research. Also, Substack has a lot of great people. Aaron Mate's on there. Glenn Greenwald is a great person to talk about this with. He talks about Julian Assange. He talks about all of that. Have you ever thought of doing your own Substack? I think you would be great.
I mean, I like writing, so just putting out like a newsletter once a week or something. It's not a bad idea.
We should talk about it. Well, stay on after the stream.
Okay.
Don't leave. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank Naim Abul Hawa for coming on. Aaron, thank you for coming on. Okay, that was me, but Aaron, if you watch this live stream, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry that it was so late, and I appreciate you being here.
I know you have a game later today, but thanks, Aaron.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Oscar Montiel for watching. Thank you to everybody else for watching. And it's our first day back, baby. Well, our first day back was on Monday, I think. But come on, first video back. Let me take a sip of soda to celebrate. Okay, Naim, thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for having me. Ciao.